We are live on a Wednesday, a Victory Wednesday. How about that? Here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app and live video is streaming over on our YouTube channel. I'm your host, Mike Gill. What's going on, everybody? The Eagles beat the Washington football team last night, as you heard right here live on 97.3 ESPN. Eagles get to 7-7. They are now tied with Minnesota and New Orleans for the last playoff spot. Minnesota has that due to tiebreakers, but so much to dissect from last night's game. Holy moly, Josh Henning producing today's show. You out there, we've got plenty to talk about with a Victory Wednesday for the Eagles. Sloppy start, the ball off of Goddard's hands, off his foot, intercepted. Really should have been a touchdown. I mean, the guy took it to the house. But everybody just thought the play was dead, and they end up scoring anyway. Another turnover as they're driving down the field. I tweeted out, and this is why I'm not like a reactionary tweeter too often. You know, Hurts, I didn't think Hurts looked 100%. I thought he looked a little indecisive running the ball. I thought he looked a little slower than normal. I didn't think he set the same burst. And I said, look, if you're not 100%, he's not good enough to be out there if he's not 100%. And I thought he played really well the rest of the game. And really in the second half. I thought he played really well in the second half. He had almost 300 yards passing. He had 3 touchdowns. He ran for 1. I mean, I thought it was maybe one of Hurts' best game that he has played. So we could dive into that. I think he obviously quieted the Gardner Minshew stuff. He let a couple of balls rip. I mean, for the people who say he doesn't have the arm strength, he threw one last night from the 10, ripped it down to the other 40-yard line. I thought Goddard made a great play on the ball, but the ball had the air underneath of it, and it got there. He ripped one to Greg Ward in the front of the end zone as a back shoulder throw. Ward made an unbelievable adjustment to catch the ball, but the throw was only where Ward could get it. He ripped that thing in there. I thought he made a couple of really nice throws. So the arm strength thing that we hear a lot out, he can't throw the ball down the field. I thought that kind of got put to rest somewhat last night. I mean, it's a sloppy game on a Tuesday night. You would expect a game on a Tuesday night to be sloppy. But they did what they had to do. And they really imposed their will on a team that just didn't have the manpower last night on both sides of the ball. 41 carries for Philadelphia last night. To me, that's the story in the game. They just absolutely whipped Washington up front. They absolutely took it to the football team last night. The Eagles' offensive line is right now maybe the biggest X factor in the NFL. And I say that because nobody else has the depth on the offensive line that Philadelphia does. They're down to their 3rd left guard and their 4th right guard. Think about that. Isaac Seumalo started at left guard. Landon Dickerson played left guard. Last night they were at Suopeta. On the right side, it was Brandon Brooks. Then they went to Landon Dickerson. Dickerson moved to the left side. They went to Jack Driscoll, and now they're at Nate Herbig. They're at their 4th different right guard and their 3rd different left guard, and they dominated Washington up front last night. Miles Sanders, first running back that went over 100 yards in back-to-back games since LaShawn McCoy. You heard that last night. But the running attack up front is why the Philadelphia Eagles are still in this. And it's really got to be a question that I want to ask Sal Paolantonio, who's set to join us here to start the show off on a Sal Pal Wednesday. ESPN senior national correspondent Sal Paolantonio set to join me here on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN, as we will get the Sal Pal instant reaction as the Eagles win that game last night. I got to wonder what Jeff Lurie's thinking about this team. You know, what does he think? But last night, it was very interesting, and we're going to start off on this Wednesday show with reaction with Sal Paolantonio as he joins me right now. And, of course, that's all thanks to our buddy Johnny G and the Burger Realty team over in Ocean City, who was kind enough to deliver Sal Pal on a Sal Pal Wednesday, a Victory Wednesday. It has a weird ring to it, but last night, you know, after inconspicuous start to that game, they really showed their will last night, Sal, and got a win in kind of an impressive fashion.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. You know, the turning point really was when Nick Sirianni confronted Jalen Hurts on the sideline after that strip sack fumble. Second quarter, it was a 2nd and 6, I believe. No, first quarter, 2nd and 6, deep into Washington territory, the strip sack, and Jalen Hurts comes to the sideline, and Nick Sirianni got in his ear. I thought that was the turning point of the game, Mike. Maybe the turning point of the season. Maybe even the turning point of Jalen Hurts' career in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and Hurts was asked about it after the game and had a really interesting answer. It seemed that both coach and player were on the same page when asked about that whole situation, that there was just a small video clip about that was kind of making its way through the social media, but both coach and player were asked about it. Hurts' comment and Sirianni's comment both brought up an interesting point.
Yeah, that, Sirianni was coached hard by his dad. Jalen Hurts was coached hard by his father. He said, I lived with the man who chewed me out in high school. Hey, Mike, I lived with the man who chewed me out in high school. My dad was my baseball and football coach and my life coach. My dad's name, as you know, was Vito Mario Palantonio. My whole life was a hostile work environment. And so it resonated with me when Jalen Hurts said that and when Nick Sirianni said that. Guys who come up from never usually have somebody who chewed them out along the way.
Sal, I look at the game last night, 27-17. They're 7-7. I want to ask you, what do you think Jeff Lurie thinks about where his organization is right now?
Well, that's a big picture question. Let's try the little picture first, and then I'll try to tear off the big picture, Mike.
Yeah.
The little picture is, one, boy, that Giants loss was terrible now, right? I mean, we said it at the time, but if they had beat the Giants, boy, they would be in the driver's seat, man, oh man. And now they've got to win out, really, and get some help. Because, they're playing as well offensively as many of the teams that are on the doorstep or in the playoffs. I mean, they're playing definitely as well as Buffalo, definitely as good as Pittsburgh. Cincinnati, you could go down the list. They're playing as well as San Francisco, for sure. But, they're on the outside looking in. And they've got to win out. And this was audition number 1 for Jalen Hurts. And he's got 3 more chances to solidify his claim as starting quarterback now and in the future for this team. So let's talk about the future. They're armed with all these first-round draft picks, and they have to make the choice. And it'll take months and months and weeks of analytics and scouting and meetings and discussions and conversations with college and high school coaches all over the country, because they're either going to find a college quarterback to take in the first round, or they're going to trade for a professional quarterback who might be better than Jalen Hurts without giving up the farm, or they're going to stick and stay, as you like to say down in AC. They're going to stick and stay with Jalen and use all those assets to build around him. That's a big, 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 big decision.
Yeah, that certainly looms. And the reason I asked the question about Jeffrey Lurie is they won 4 games last year. He's got this quarterback here that I don't know what they think, but they're 7-7. They're in the middle of this thing. Is Jeff Lurie kind of looking at like, wow, this has been a successful season. I found my head coach. I don't know about my quarterback, but my organization's moving in the right direction. I know it sounds big picture, but that game last night puts them right in the pot with everybody else.
Well, Mike, you asked me this question in week 1, if you remember. And I said, all right, they won 4, fired Peterson, hired Sirianni. They win 6. That's an improvement. With Sirianni, if they win 6, that's an improvement. With Sirianni in his first year, if they win 8, that's a success. You doubled the victory total in 1 year. with a new system and a neophyte quarterback. Mike, you go to the playoffs in your first year from 4 wins. I mean, wow, you run it right up the flagpole and say we did the right thing and we got the right pieces in place.
The right piece in place. I don't know that anybody has the answer to this yet, but you talk about Jalen Hurts and the coach's son and what was said last night. But, he hadn't played in 3 weeks, really. He gets hurt in the Giant game. He doesn't play. Then they have a bye. They have the couple extra days. So he had a little rust, but I thought maybe that was the biggest bounce back effort that I can remember for a quarterback. I thought he really stepped up and played a big, second half last night because you were in that stadium. It probably could have been hearing some boos had they not, had he not played well. But I thought he really stepped up and really had a big bounce back in that second half.
Well, Mike, the whole team. Mike, they were definitely boos in the first quarter. There were boos after the first touchdown by Washington. They got a short field after the Goddard, ball kicked off of Goddard's heel, and they got the interception, got the short field. And then the defense didn't make much of a stand. Washington moonwalked into the end zone.
Yep.
The team looked flat, very flat. And Sirianni knew it. And he had to light a fire under his team. And what's the one thing you got to do? You don't go after the little guy. You don't go after the third string special team safety. You go after the big dog. And, I think it worked for the team. Definitely worked for Jalen. 20 of 26. He was throwing the ball from the pocket. Yeah, Washington is, a little better than the Jets. But, Michael, I thought that was a really great bounce-back game, as you said.
Yeah, and look, Hurts, I get the calls and texts all the time here. Well, he can't throw the ball down the field. His arm's not strong enough. He let a couple rip last night. He had the one that got it up the sideline. The throw that he threw to Ward, he puts it in a spot where only Ward could get it. Goddard had a couple drops, or his night's probably even bigger than 20 of 26 for 296.
Yep. He looked really good, sharp, focused, and, the team came out flat, and it responded. Now, again, if they had beaten the Giants, we'd have a completely different discussion. We'd have exclamation points all over the place. But there's a but, and there's always a but. The audition's not over, Mike. It's That's just right. Not.
You asked Nick Sirianni last night about how do you keep them focused for those 2 extra days. I thought his answer was interesting. Basically said, you gave us 2 extra days to prepare. I didn't like the way we were practicing, and those 2 extra days let us clean some things up.
Yeah, and it was the focus on the details. And then when I asked Darius Slay is a funny guy, by the way. I did a one-on-one interview with him on the field for SportsCenter after the game. And I said, Darius, and he goes, don't call me Darius, call me Slay. I said, what if I call – I just laughed. That was funny. And I said, what if I call you Big Play Slay? And he said, that's better. So I actually called him Big Play Slay through the entire interview. It's hilarious. And so I asked him, I said, what was the key? And he said, yeah, we had to go back and go through the details. We knew we were facing a depleted team, and we knew that we probably were going to face the third string quarterback. And the way to get beat is not to focus on the details and to lose sight of the little things. Do your job. Now, I thought defensively they definitely were not aggressive enough on the front. Definitely Jonathan Gannon did not call enough blitzes. They sent 4 way too much. Should have sent 5. Should have sent 6. They were playing off the line of scrimmage in the secondary way too much. Washington probably got gifted with the penalties about 150, 175 yards. Don't you think, Mike?
It's a weekly thing. You guys could do a whole thing if the NFL would let you on how bad the officiating is. I don't know that they would let you guys or appreciate that piece running on such a network, but it's bad everywhere. The officiating in the games are terrible.
Yeah, there were two calls right in front of the side judge, in front of the Washington bench. One was the reception. That clearly was a reception that was called out of bounds, and that was overturned. And then the fumble. I mean, both of them were right there in front of that side judge. I don't know his name. I don't want to call him out.
There's a face mask, John Allen on Hurts. I mean, that was an obvious right for the guy. They showed the replay over and over. I said, how does this guy standing right there not see this face mask? It's unbelievable. But hey,
yeah. But anyway, Washington was gifted about 150 to 175 yards of offense in that game for a lot of different reasons. Nevertheless, listen, Mike, it's not going to be easy. It is not going to be easy to turn around and play in 5 days with Christmas in between. This Giants game, this is another game where you really have to button up the details and play it like you're playing the first game of the season. You really do.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because obviously Friday, Merry Christmas to Sal and his family and everybody there. There will be no Sal Pal Friday, so we're kind of jamming in one today. We're looking back at last night, but you just said it. They got to get ready to play again in now the next most important game, and it's in a 5-day span. I mean, this is not ideal, but, I mean, they're up against it, and this is a Giant team that – go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah.
And this is a Giant team that's beaten you already. So I guess there is that lingering thought. But are you confident that Nick Sirianni has the temperament to shut this one down and now focus ahead to the next one?
Yeah, I do. I think he's really good at it, clearly, and he's got some veterans on the team that help him. And Miles Sanders said, he was asked about it last night. You got to play the Giants in 5 days. And he goes, that's fine. If we got to play them tomorrow, we'll play them tomorrow. I mean, That's their mentality.
Sure.
But, an NFL game's a car wreck, and your body does have to, get back into shape, rehab, get rid of the pain, rest up. You got to have Christmas. I thought it was funny that Sirianni said, hey, yeah, we'll have the guys come in late on Christmas Day so they can have a chance to open up their presents. I'm like, wow, that was mighty nice of you. Jeez. You're going to give them half the day off so at least they can go home and have Christmas dinner with their families?
What did Andy
Apparently
used to
not.
What did Andy used
to get back to work?
What did Andy used to say? We'll see you Wednesday. Are they in today?
They're lifting today.
Okay.
I thought what was really interesting is he does have the right approach. He said, we're going to give the players a break from the coaches.
Gotcha.
So there will be no meetings today or interaction with the coaches today. So they'll get a mental break. They'll be able to interact with one another in the weightlifting room and get a mental break from the coaches. They'll revel in their victory amongst each other, and they'll be motivated to do whatever film study that they want on their own. And knowing a guy like Jalen or Jason Kelsey or these guys, they're very serious-minded about what they do and their approach. And there's not going to be any slackers. You don't have to worry about that with this team. This team's got some self-policing that's pretty sharp.
Well, Sal, I know, and at this time of the year, there's always that team that everybody says, you don't want to play that team. But a team that ran the ball 41 times for 238 yards, I would imagine matched up playing.
Merry Christmas to you guys, and happy holidays, and Merry Christmas to Johnny G and the Griner team at Burger Realty, and thank you for their support of the Sports Bash, Mike Gill program, and my participation in it. I really appreciate it. And Merry Christmas to all your listeners on 97.3 down at the Jersey Shore and all over South Jersey. Thank you so much, Mike.
All right, Sal. Have a good Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And, of course, as he just said, the Eagles win 27-17 over the Philadelphia Eagles. And as I was wrapping up there to finish saying there, you're in a situation where nobody wants to play a team that runs the ball 41 times for 238 yards. And obviously it sets up for this matchup with the New York Giants on Sunday. So we'll wrap that up here on the Sports Bash. We'll get you ready for what's still to come. McGarry coming up in just about 20 minutes from now. You'll get him and his thoughts on the game last night. And we will also dive into the Giant game just a little bit with Mike. And, of course, the Eagles, the playoffs, where it stands, my who's in, who's out. That's coming up today in the 4 o'clock hour. You'll hear from Nick Sirianni, his day after presser. We'll have that for you in the 3 o'clock hour. Grayson's grades. I asked the question to Sal. He kind of said, look, that's big picture. I want to talk about the game. Okay. What does Jeff Lurie think about his team right now? 7-7. Does he look at Howie Roseman and say, hey, man, you've done a great job getting this team competitive again? Many people out there don't like Howie. But is Jeff Lurie saying, holy mackerel, how are we 7-7? How are we where we are right now? What do you guys think about that? 609 403 0973. 609 403 0973. Hit me up on the text board. And what is your favorite Christmas song? That's all I hear now is Christmas songs. I got a thought on that. I got Christmas song rankings. What's your favorite Christmas song? 609 403 0973. 2:26 on the Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. Mike McGarry in about 11 minutes from now. Hopefully, we've got who's in, who's out. Hopefully, you'll be sticking around tonight. I got thoughts on building an organization and where the Eagles are right now and how it all kind of comes together. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on in the show. Your favorite Christmas song is what? 609 403 0973. 609 403 0973. You notice with Christmas songs, by the way, I don't want to get into the whole Christmas thing right now, but I will a little bit later. You got to have like a weird first name to be a guy who writes or sings a Christmas song. I mean, you got Bing, Burl, Perry. I mean, really, it's just like Burl Ives, Bing Crosby, Perry Cuomo. Like, you got to have like a real odd name to come up with Christmas music songs.
What you're trying to say is there's nobody named Mike or Bill.
Not really.
I mean, it's true. There isn't any. So,
I mean, I get it. These songs are written in like the 30s and 40s, most of these 50s, maybe some of these songs, but it's, I was saying this the other day, I said, you never notice that all the guys who write Christmas songs are these guy like Burl Ives doesn't do anything else, but he has Christmas music. That's it.
I mean, good for him. He found his niche, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Him, Perry Cuomo.
I mean, I don't even know
Bing,
Perry Cuomo did aside from Christmas.
the guy, Bing Crosby. That is the ultimate Christmas name. Bing Crosby. You couldn't say, hey, we got a great name for someone to be the face of Christmas music. We're going to name this guy Bing Crosby. And for God's sakes, there's a real human being by the name of Bing Crosby, and he happens to be the guy
he happens to be able to sing,
to write and sing all of the Christmas songs. I mean Bing
Burl
Crosby
Ives is a great one too, isn't it not?
Yeah, Burl Ives, that was it, just brought us back from Christmas. So if you were to do, now my old producer, Pete G, just sent me a text, okay? He asked me for my top 10 Christmas song list. And I said, how many songs you want? He said 10. So I quickly came up with 10 of my favorite Christmas songs. You know what's number one on my list?
What is it?
You didn't even guess. You gave up that quick.
Well, I mean, I feel like one of the things you and I never talked about is Christmas music.
Yeah, I know, but you know what? I left one off the list I probably should have put on there. But
Honorable
number
mention?
one on my list, Mariah Carey, All I Want for Christmas Is You. That's the best Christmas song out there. It's number one. It's better than all the classics. It's the best one. That's my number one. Now, you got the Bings, you got the Burls, you got the Perrys, you got them in there as well. But, you know, Mariah Carey's number one.
So you're saying Mariah above all?
Got to. You know, and I put, you want my list real quick? Here's my 10. Ready?
I'm here for it.
I'll give you my 10.
Sure.
Elton John, Step Into Christmas.
Okay.
The Linus and Lucy song.
From the Charlie Brown Christmas.
Classic. Rocking Around the Christmas Tree, Brenda Lee.
It's a good one.
Andy Williams, Most Wonderful Time of the Year.
That's one of my favorites.
Wham, Last Christmas.
All right.
Yeah, George Michael, baby.
Nice.
Perry Cuomo, It's Beginning to Look a Lot Like Christmas.
Perry made the list.
Burl Ives, Holly Jolly Christmas, which you just heard.
Yes.
Nat King Cole, the Xmas song, the Christmas song, I should say. I wrote Xmas because I'm typing really fast, so I'm reading off my list here.
Nat King Cole, legend.
Yeah. Bing Crosby, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. And Mariah Carey, All I Want for Christmas. Now, the Kinks, I considered the Kinks a little bit more modern, even though the Kinks aren't all that modern either. The Jackson 5, Santa Claus is Coming to Town. I like the more upbeat ones. I don't like the,
you don't like Oh Holy Night or the first.
Nah, I'm out on that. Got some people like Feliz Navidad. That's in there. Little Drummer Boy's a little too slow for me.
Feliz Navidad be my favorite.
Meli Kaliki Maka, Bing Crosby. He's a binger. That's a binger right there.
That's a binger.
Got the Cheech and Chong song, Santa Claus and his old lady, stuff like that.
Right.
I don't know. I'm looking forward to the list because.
Will you check it twice?
Nah, I'm just gonna, people send in their favorite Christmas songs. I might play some of these songs when we come back from break. I'm in the holiday spirit. You know
I
why?
like it.
All my stuff is paid for and wrapped right now.
Ooh, nice.
Yep.
I like to hear that.
All done.
Boom.
Paid for and wrapped.
Just drop done.
609-403-0973. Mike, saying that dreadful Mariah Carey song is your favorite has me rethinking my patronage of your show. Have a Merry Christmas from Pete and Vineland. Hey, look. It's the one. It's the number one song. It's the number one Christmas song. You know why?
Because of Mariah?
It's Mariah. It's got a little speed to it. Everybody else keeps trying to do it. They do a decent job on it.
But they're not her.
They're not. It's not Bing, Perry, or Burl. I'm not giving in to those guys. They've got too much of a stranglehold on Christmas.
See, mine is Feliz Navidad.
You went Feliz Navidad.
I want the Jose Feliciano version. I don't want the remakes.
Well, that's the thing, too. You got a lot of remakes now. I was listening to, my girlfriend likes to listen to the Christmas music, so our sister station, Light Rock, plays all the Christmas tunes.
Right.
And, they're playing songs over there, and I'm like, man, all these people I might as well just remake a song. How do you get the remake of the song? Let me remake a song. Right?
Pay for it. Gotta pay for it. Yeah, that works.
Blink 182, I think, did a Christmas song. Maybe I forgot about.
Did they really?
I think so. I think a lot of those alternative
I wouldn't be
bands.
surprised if they did. Just kind of escaping my mind what they would have done.
Mike, I thought the Eagles played well. My only gripe is Gannon's too conservative on defense. A lot of 3-man, 4-man pass rush, not enough blitzes. Also, why are they trying to get 18 so involved? Rather get the ball to Smith instead. Sal Powell brought up the Gannon thing. Josh, you asked me a question before the show. It had a twist with Gannon in it. I just think he felt that Gilbert couldn't beat them, beat him, and could get there with 4. I mean, I thought late in the game they did get a lot of pressure. I mean, they weren't getting to him, but the walls were caving in on him late in the game. Like the fourth quarter, I thought I would like to see more blitzes. I thought they could have wreaked havoc, but you know what? I just don't think he wanted the big play to beat them. He just said, safe, you're not beating us. I just don't want to get something. Like they had that one big throw.
Right.
They sent people, and he just threw it up down the field, and Slay kind of got twisted and turned around, and the guy made the catch. And I think he just said, I don't want something like that to happen because I don't think this guy could beat us.
I understand that. I just felt like a lot of their pressure was a byproduct of Fletcher and Javon just going up the middle against those nobodies in the middle of the line and just beating the snot out of them.
I gave game balls before the show, during the show yesterday. I had 29-9.
Yes, you did.
27-10, 27-17. They got that late touchdown. My game balls were Hargrave, who didn't do much last night. I mean, he didn't have a lot
on the stat sheet, but he
had
was
a hit,
visible.
he had a sack, he
was visible in the game.
Well, him and Fletcher Cox, I thought, were a problem. And that's why I don't think Gannon was blitzing all that much, because they were getting so much up the middle pressure.
Right.
That I think he figured I don't need to send pressure because they're getting enough. Fletcher Cox had a sack and a half last night.
He did. He had a big game, but I think part of the reason why he had a big game was because Javon was also having the impact he was.
Yeah.
It was like the defense had to make a decision. Who are you going to stop?
So who was your defensive game ball last night?
I mean, I guess I would go Fletcher Cox just because.
He had a big game. On offense, I went Jordan Howard, and you can make an argument that Howard deserves the game ball because they turned the ball over to him in the fourth quarter, and he had, they kind of got away from Miles Sanders late in that game and went back to – now Sanders had the bigger stats, 18 for 131, but Howard was the one out there that ran that game out.
That, and also the fact that if it wasn't for Howard's runs, some of those Miles Sanders runs don't happen. It's a setup. It's like if a pitcher's got a fastball and a changeup. You give him the one pitch, and then you set him up for the other pitch.
Goddard, 7 for 135. I continue to say Goddard's just a weapon they don't use enough. They had 9 targets last night. He had 2 drops, one off his foot.
That was so bad.
Hurts probably gets the game ball, though, on offense. Hurts,
Probably.
Sanders, Goddard, one of those three. Greg Ward had a great catch.
Hey,
All right.
he has 3 catches for 3 touchdowns.
Mike McGarry will look back to last night. 5 days from now, they'll get ready for the Giants. The Giants have a role in these playoffs. Who might get in? We'll get to the reaction from last night and more on the other side. Sports Bash brought to you by Matt Blatt Kia. They want to get you approved today. Matt Blatt, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. 242 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. His appearance is brought to you by Calvi Electric, now offering residential services for your home and business. Visit them online at calvielectric.com. Marshmallow World, I definitely blanked on that one. That one probably should be on my list, Dean Martin. You know, I might change my list. The guy asked me in a commercial break, and I hammered out 10 songs for him off the top of my head. That's why I asked you guys, what's the best Christmas song? So that I can maybe readjust my list as this show goes on, because he's going to go on his show tomorrow with my list. So that's why I need your help. Mike McGarry, Press of Atlantic City. I'm sure he has a great Christmas song list. He's probably got a couple. Are you a Burl, Perry, Bing guy? Or do you go down the classic route?
How about a John Lennon? That one. That's a classic right there. You know,
you're the John Lennon. Somebody just tweeted at me that I missed the John Lennon.
Right there, you go.
Happy Christmas, war is over.
Right. That's a classic.
There you go.
The best of the Beatles.
That's your go-to. Song. That's your one. That's your one.
I like that one, and then I am partial to the crooner, the Dean Martin, the Bing Crosby crooner sort of versions, also basically. Yeah, you know.
I was saying earlier, you know, you got to have like a wacky first name to be a Christmas crooner. Burl, Perry, Cuomo.
Right.
Like if they were to create a movie character on the Hallmark Channel of like the guy who shows up and then disappears whenever you look around, his name would be Bing Crosby. It just happens to be a real person's name.
Exactly. And you can't go wrong with Bing's White Christmas, this sort of classic version there. And like I said, anything Dean Martin wise, I'm a big little secret here. I'm a big Dean Martin guy in Christmas or in the middle of July. A Dean Martin underrated as an actor, a comedian, and a crooner also.
There you go. That's a whole new genre, Christmas in July music. You should have like a Christmas in July channel. All right, Mike, last night, 10-0, they're down, looks sloppy, ball off the foot, fumble in the red zone, defense getting torched, and then they turn it around. I thought Jalen Hurts maybe had the biggest comeback of the season, maybe the biggest comeback for his career there last night.
Yeah, also I thought he played great after that rough start. And see here, a little breaking news flashing across my screen that Sirianni is in the COVID-19 protocol right now. And I guess he's discussing it with right now during the press conference. So that's something to look for going forward. But I thought the Eagles almost made the classic mistake last night. When you play a team like Washington that was down, that was missing guys, you almost gave them life early. But at the end of the day, Washington just couldn't overcome having a guy who hadn't been there more than a week quarterback the football team. So it was eventually just eventually waiting it out. And Hurts had a good game. The defense came up and they continued to run the football great. So it was a must win and they got it.
They did last night. They got the win. Hurts played 20 of 26, 296. He had 3 touchdowns, 1 through the air. He ran for 2, made a couple of big throws in the game. They ran 41 times, over 100 for Sanders last night. Hey, they're still in this thing, obviously, but offensively, I want to get your opinion on this, because yesterday we talked a lot about teams that reach for quarterbacks, right? And it feels like the smart way to go in the league now is to build an offensive line, get a running back for cheap, and just have a guy that can make plays. You can win up front and not spend a lot on your running backs. Don't go reaching for these quarterbacks. Fields, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, they all stink. Build your team this way.
Yeah, in other words, it's gone back to the way it was in the 1970s and 80s, right? Where guys didn't turn on their quarterback 6 games into a season and teams didn't discard quarterbacks. Guys played quarterback and were allowed to grow. I think Hurts is a perfect example of that. Is Hurts a guy who's going to come in and you're going to throw the ball 50 times with him, and is he going to win the Super Bowl for you or a playoff game or lead you to a winning record doing that? But can Jalen Hurts win playing the way they did last night with a good defense, with a strong offensive line? And look at Kansas City, Mike. Like early in the season, it was the Mahomes show, and they weren't winning. Now they're playing defense. They're running the football. They're not asking Mahomes to do as much as he did, and they're back winning too. So I agree with you 100%. And I don't understand like guys guys who say, well, we got to get rid of Jalen Hurts because he's a guy who can't throw it 40 times and win a Super Bowl with. Well, you're exactly right. Are you going to turn your back on Hurts for Kenny Pickett's or any of these other guys? And look at these guys. I mean, Zach Wilson looks bad. Fields looks bad. Trevor Lawrence, what do we know about him? And these guys were supposedly can't miss guys coming into the year.
Right.
So,
in other words, this draft was
I'm sticking with Hurts.
Last night, I think I went to bed saying, you know what? I'm okay with the Hurts-Minshew combination again next year. Give me 3 more talented players.
Absolutely.
And look at this league, Mike. Justin Herbert is probably the guy that you would say, man, I'd love that guy. They're 8-5. It's not like that team is 13-3 where, it's like they have a good quarterback and they're still mediocre. This league is to me, what I've come into terms with is the talent level from team to team is so close that coaching and scheme in the NFL wins out.
And also what wins out is that you don't want the quarterback to commit turnovers and beat yourself, right? Which is kind of what happened against the Giants a couple of weeks ago, where Hurts probably played his worst game. The turnovers cost him in that game. Last night, he had the turnovers early, then they were able to right the ship. But if you can get a guy who can run like Hurts, who can throw the ball, allow you to use your skill guys, and you put him behind a big offensive line, you run the football, and you play defense, that's a winning combination. I mean, I don't know where we got this idea that we had to have a quarterback who was all world, and that was the only way to win in the NFL. I agree with you 100%. To me, there's no doubt. You bring back Hurts. He's only, I go back to, he's only played 17, 18 games. He's better now than he was last year. How good is he going to be when he's starting game 30, game 31, game 32?
Yeah.
You're headed in the right direction. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I agree. I thought he looked very poised last night. I even tweeted out. I'm not a big reactionary tweeter. He just didn't look healthy. He looked slower. He didn't look decisive when he wanted to run. He looked like he just was like, I really don't want to take off. But he definitely looked better as the game went on. And I said, look, he's not good enough right now to not be 100%. That's why you have Minshew, is that if he's not 100%, you have a guy you have confidence in. But he played much better as the game went on. Now, moving forward, I want to ask you about the defense because they were very passive again last night. Now, I feel like Gannon said, we can get enough pressure. I just don't want this guy Gilbert to just chuck it down the field, pass interferences, some guy falls. I feel like that was why he was so passive last night.
Yeah, I would agree with that. First of all, they did get some pressure up front with Fletcher Cox, put a lot of pressure on the quarterback. And I think they were in a position where they just said to themselves, hey, this guy Gilbert is not going to lead Washington on a 20-play drive down the football field without making a mistake. So, and like you said, we don't want to pressure him or blitz and give him an opportunity to make a play, which is what they almost did on the one drive where they scored to make it 20-17, right? They gave Washington some opportunities and Washington was able to take advantage. So they just decided to bleed the field and believe in the fact that Gilbert wasn't going to be good enough. He'd been there less than a week. He was on the Patriots like 10 days ago. He wasn't going to come in and lead you on a 15-play drive down the field without making a mistake. So I would say it's kind of a solid strategy last night for the Eagles. And you might see it again this weekend because you don't know who's going to start at quarterback for the Giants. They haven't made a determination yet on who's going to start for quarterback. Whoever it is, it's not going to be very good. And you're probably going to make the same guess this week that, a Giant team is not going to go on a 15-play drive unless you hand them opportunities to make big plays by screwing up. If you make them go 15 plays down the field, they're not going to be able to do it. So you're likely to see the same thing.
Give us a couple quick thoughts on that game. Obviously, the Giants won that game last time. It was the worst game Hurts played, and the Eagles looked terrible. And that could be the game that you look back on if they don't make the playoffs. You might say that Giant game was the one. But is there a possibility that the Giants could bite them again?
Oh, absolutely, because it's the NFL, right? And we saw it last week with Detroit and Arizona. And, the Eagles, in a way, were lucky last night, right? They spotted Washington in the early lead. I wouldn't do that on Sunday against the Giants. What they've got to do is come and do what the Cowboys did to the Giants. This game has got to be so boring for the Eagles that everybody's asleep by the third quarter. It's just got to be run the football, don't take any chances. Don't give the Giants any signs of life. That's what happened up at MetLife. As you remember, the Giants got the early lead. All of a sudden, Hurts has a bad game. Jalen Reagor drops some passes, and now you're looking at a loss. Don't give the Giants early life this week. The Giants are down. The Giants just want the season to be over. Let them take their medium Pepsi and get out of town. What Dallas did last week. Put them to sleep. Win the game 20-6. 20-10, 21-10, run the football, throw some passes, play defense. Don't look up and have what happened last night. You got away with it last night. Are you going to get away with it 2 weeks in a row? I don't know. Don't give the Giants any early life this Sunday.
This news that you just broke to us, we're seeing all over the place now. Nick Sirianni tests positive for COVID, says he woke up today symptomatic, doesn't feel well. You know, this is a weird situation. If he doesn't coach the game, you got 5 days to get ready for this game, and your coach is now doing everything virtual. I mean, that's got to be an issue here.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, although I think they've got to be so. I always question the fact when they say these coaches can't coach. Like, technology-wise today, you can't be, like, in your living room and still be on a headset to a guy on the sidelines. Maybe you can't make every play-by-play call, but you can still factor in on big decisions and suggest stuff. I find that hard to believe that in today's technology world, we can't figure out a way to get that done.
I agree. Like, the guy could be on FaceTime, literally standing there, you know.
I mean, in real time, I understand the TV broadcasts are delayed by a little bit, but I got to figure out, we can figure something out here. But that's just the way of the world. I guess it is now. The same thing happened up with the Jets coach. He tested positive today. I guess if you're vaccinated, you only get tested if you show symptoms.
Difference was Saleh was asymptomatic. I think he just said, I don't want to be around this team anymore.
Possibly. He might have said, I want to take this week off. I've seen enough. That's why I said both the Jets and the Giants and New York football fans, just get us to the playoffs where we can watch real teams. And don't give the Giants any life this Sunday.
All right. Eagles in the thick of the playoffs. Mike McGarry for the Press of Atlantic City. Merry Christmas, Mike. We're off on Friday. Have a great Christmas. We'll talk to you next week after the holiday. And, you know, stay safe, man. It feels like the walls are closing in on us.
We'll be all right. We'll be all right. Merry Christmas, everybody.
All right. That's Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. We appreciate him, as always. His appearance is brought to you by Calvi Electric, offering residential services for your home and business. Online, calvielectric.com. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. That was Mike McGarry. Appreciate him being a part of the show this year. We decided to do something a couple days a week, and I think a lot of people have fun with Mike and I sparring back and forth, having different views from the New York guy, the Philly guy, but it's all in good fun. So we appreciate Mike agreeing to be a part of the show this year, and we look forward to him in 2022 as well. He'll be back after the New Year, after Christmas. It's weird because Christmas on a Saturday this year. I'm off next week for the most part. So Mike will be here with Josh on Monday, and then I guess we're off on Wednesday. I'll be back for one day on Thursday. We got a special show. I'll give you some details on that. We're off on Friday next week. We'll give you more details on that. I got the special State of the Team show coming up on Friday, and I'll give you more details on 97.3. Grayson's grades are on the way next.
Tuesday after an Eagles game. I mean, what the heck?
All right, 3 o'clock Sports Bash. Grayson's Grades here on the Bash. They're brought to you by Boardwalk Honda. From Maine to Miami, nobody beats the Boardwalk deal. Online, boardwalkhonda.com. I'm Mike Gill, Scott Grayson, Fox 29 and 97.3 ESPN.com. Set to join us here to give us his grades from last night's Eagles victory as they beat the Washington football team. They get to 7-7, and they are now the 8th seed currently. 7 teams make the playoffs. They are the 8th seed in the with great over the Washington football team. What's going on, Scott?
How you doing, Mike? What a wonderful Wednesday, day after the game, right?
Yeah, Victory Wednesday. It has a nice ring to it. We got to do this more often. It was fun last night having a football game on Tuesday night. Don't get used to it, but all right, let's go. Obviously, a lot to dissect here, a lot to unpack as Grayson's grades after the game. Sloppy start, just basically the fumble by Hurts, the interception off of the foot of Goddard, but they kind of settled in and kind of really imposed their will and took control of the game. So let's look at the grades and, of course, start with Jalen Hurts, the quarterback in this game. You gave him an A last night. It didn't start off that way, but maybe one of the best bounce backs after what he did against work, all the time he had off, the slow start last night, and how he finished last night.
Yeah, I mean, the interception, obviously not his fault. That was as freak a play as you'll see. But 6 incompletions, I think, and 2 of them were just flat out hitting the hand drops to Goddard. I thought he threw the ball really well, and perhaps the most impressive throw. Look, 2 throws really stand out to me. The one on the run where he gave Devontae Smith an opportunity to make an amazing catch on the sideline, and then the one in the end zone for the touchdown that really, in my mind, put it away. That was thrown perfectly, a beautiful back shoulder throw. And great execution, of course, by Greg Ward to pull it in. Thrown only where his guy could get it. I felt like watching him, though, the one thing that stood out to me was he was not as eager to get out of the pocket and run. And I thought there were some opportunities there. So what does that say? To me, that says the ankle's still perhaps bothering him a little bit. And so that's worth watching. But it forced him to kind of go through his progressions a little more. I saw him working off of guys and then hitting guys who might have been a third or a fourth progression on a read, which is something he hasn't done earlier in the season. So the fumble, I thought, wow, this is going about as bad as it could have. Sirianni said something to him coming off the field, and after that, he was a completely different quarterback in my mind. And look, I think he went from one of his worst games of the year to perhaps, easily, I would say, one of his best of the season.
Yeah, I agree with that. I actually tweeted out, and that's why I said I don't like to be a reactionary tweeter because it makes you look bad, half hour down the road. And I thought he played maybe one of his best games. I said, look, he doesn't look 100%. I agree with what you're saying. He looked tentative. He looked like he didn't really want to take off. He didn't look like he wanted to try to extend runs. He was really getting down fast. Anytime there was possible contact, I said, if he's not 100%, he shouldn't be out there. But he really made me eat my words because I thought he played a really good game, and he answered a lot of questions. Can he throw the ball down the field? Well, he pushed one through to Goddard. Goddard went up and made a great catch, but the throw was there for him to make a catch on. I thought the throw that he made to Smith on the sideline, I mean, he really ripped that thing. He made a couple other throws where he really let it go. The throw to Ward was only in one spot where Ward could catch it, and give Ward a lot of credit. He made the adjustment and made the catch. I thought Hurts really took a big step forward, especially after the Minshew stuff hanging over his head for 2 weeks and as poorly as he played in the game against the Giants the week before.
Yeah, and I think, in talking about the hesitancy to run, I felt like late in the first half, I felt like Washington started to pick up on that too and started to leave some of those containment opportunities that were holding him in. I think in the second half, they started to get away from that, thinking he's not going to run. And he did get 38 yards rushing, and on, I think, 3 or 4 different runs that did really move the chains. And you're right, he got down quickly. But, yeah, coming off the Minshew stuff, and of course, he had to hear that stuff. But, look, one thing we've talked about with this guy is he's been through all kinds of adversity everywhere he's been in college and in the pros so far. At least in college, he always rose above it and found a way to lead his team to victory. I am eager and curious to see where this ends. And if they can win these last 3 games. If they don't make the playoffs by winning these last 3 games because Minnesota wins all theirs, you really have to ask yourself what you've got here. And are you really ready to try to package something with those first-round picks and move on from Hurts or fix the rest of the team like we talked about before? I was impressed with his leadership. Look, he fumbled that ball. He had the freak interception. You never saw him become anything other than just level-headed, keep his cool, and keep his composure. I love that about that guy. There are plenty of other NFL quarterbacks who let their emotions get the best of them. And he stayed level-headed. And I think it's something all his teammates really respond to well as well.
I don't know if they've made a decision on Hurts moving forward, but I think I'm at the point where I don't want to see them go crazy to try to get a quarterback. I mean, unless it makes absolute sense. I don't want them to overdraft one. Go back with Hurts and Minshew next year and continue to build around those guys. I think that's where I'm at right now.
I was even before the Giants game, and I didn't want to do, like you said, reactionary things and jump off it after the Giants game. So I kind of held my ground, which was give him one more year. You don't have to commit to him as franchise quarterback, but give him one more year and invest these draft picks at getting younger on defense and perhaps adding a piece around Hurts on offense. You've got the offensive line. You've got those pieces in place. Look, Miles Sanders, I don't know why he didn't follow Jason Kelce on that one run. That being said, he still had a great game. And I think you've got the running back position, looking decent. You've got Devontae Smith out there. I wouldn't mind seeing another receiver opposite him that demands some attention. But I'm at the point where I think you got to give Hurts another year. Use those 3 first-round picks to do something else. You can always potentially trade Gardner Minshew at some point because there's apparently been some interest in him from other teams. So, I'm fine with giving Hurts one more year and seeing if he can go out and earn the franchise job at that point.
Grayson's great. Let's look at a couple others. Fletcher Cox has been a guy who's kind of just been this year. You gave him an A, maybe his best outing of the year.
Yeah, he started a little slow, in my opinion, in that first quarter, but I like seeing him doing things he did, like firing the team up before the game. I felt like we haven't seen fired up Fletcher Cox in a while, and hungry Fletcher Cox. And Fletcher Cox looked hungry yesterday, made some big plays. That sack at the end of the first half, don't underestimate how important that was. Washington was on the verge of getting into field goal range and potentially stealing 3 points after that long kickoff return. And that sack it ate up the rest of the clock. They were done. So I thought Fletcher Cox, best game of the year. The question is, can he do it? They need him like that. He and Hargrave up the middle were together by the end of that game, really imposing their will. These last 3 opponents, Dallas obviously is a different one than the other 2. I think those guys need to continue to have that kind of game against the Giants and then again against Washington a week from Sunday.
Obviously, there was a lot of other positives. I want to go to Dallas Goedert. You gave him a B. I can understand why he had the big drop that led to a touchdown. He had another drop because he had a great game last night, 7 for 135. But 2 drops, which could have made Hurts' numbers even better. The one drop he had on a screen, he had 3 blockers out in front of him, but Goedert continues to be a huge weapon for them.
Yeah, I really struggled because I wanted to give him an A. You mentioned it earlier, the catch that he went up in traffic and made downfield. Look, the man's a beast. I love what he brings to this team. He is the reason they were able to move on from Zach Ertz. They just recycled. Forget about quarterback factory. It was like a tight end factory here. I love what the guy brings to the team, and he, in my opinion, needs even more targets. Keep feeding that guy. He's an animal. But I really, really was bothered by the 2 drops because in any other game, other than except, maybe a game against the Jets or the Giants, you may need those 2 catches to win the game. I mean, the first one looked like it would have gone a really long way if not for a touchdown. And the second drop, the one you referenced, they had that screen set up perfectly. He was going to have blockers in front of him, and we know he's tough to bring down. That might have gone for a touchdown as well. I mean, think about how different that game is at the beginning. If he doesn't have that freak drop that goes off his foot and intercepted, and it ends up going for 40, 50 yards, the Eagles, who knows if they ever fall behind in that game. So I'm bothered by the drops. It's a freak thing. It's a fluke thing. It's not like it's a problem for him like it has been for some other guys like Jalen Reagor. So I had to give him a B because I felt like in a game that meant something more than that against a better team, that could cost him the game. But other than that, man, I love what that guy brings to this team, and I'm so glad to see him continuing to produce like that.
Yeah, now I don't see maybe I missed it here, a grade for – oh, yep, you do have the offensive line. You gave them an A, and I think that's an interesting one to talk about because it spawns off another topic in conversation. Dickerson's out. They go to Opeta. He's the third left guard. Brooks is out. Dickerson's out. They go to Herbig. They're down to their third left and right guard, and yet they run for, 230 yards in the game last night. So not only an A for the offensive line, but it is really an A for how well they have stockpiled offensive linemen.
Yeah, and if Jeff Stoutland does not get assistant coach of the year, geez, this guy is just producing elite talent, including with having backups ready to go. I mean, you mentioned, Sue Opeta coming in last night. He's had to, replace Brent. How much have we forgotten about Brooks on the right side because of Driscoll coming in and playing well? Landon Dickerson, we all wondered coming off the injury what he was going to be. He's been at like virtually an all-pro level. Jordan Mailata has been a lockdown left tackle. I mean, man, he has been playing well. So that offensive line, and then, you look at the older guys who I had questions about. Jason Kelsey was running almost as fast as Miles Sanders on that one play, which was, that guy is Mr. Eagle if there isn't one. I thought last night was a great game for Kelsey. Lane Johnson on a different play was doing a similar thing downfield. These older guys that I had questions about have certainly stepped up and been durable. They've made great plays. They've done well. Quite frankly, Jeff Stoutland deserves all the credit there, and Nick Sirianni for rolling with the punches on that offense and going from what we called a team with no identity earlier in the season to a team that has now rushed for 175 yards or more in 7 straight games. It's just unreal.
Yeah, and that brings up, by the way, I don't know that I know you're driving. They just announced that Nick Sirianni has tested positive for COVID, and he is symptomatic.
I saw that.
So he is not in the building, and there's a possibility that he is not going to be able to coach the game. I don't know who on the staff would be, I guess Stoutland would be my pick to be the guy that would be the head coach on Sunday. Nobody else has really even had any type of experience.
Yeah, I would not be against that. Here's my concern, though, Mike. I mean, I watched Sirianni shake hands with Rivera last night, and he just looked a little hesitant, as if he was trying to keep his distance. And at first, I thought it's because of all the issues with Washington. And now with what we know now has just come out, as you mentioned, that Sirianni has tested positive. I think he started to get the sense last night that he was not feeling well and was trying to protect Rivera. So my fear now is he was just in the locker room with all these guys. If he's feeling sick, and I'm concerned the Eagles are going to be the Washington here in a couple days. Look, the Chiefs have been having their issues as well. I don't know what's going to happen here. I'm of course optimistic that it's just going to be Sirianni, but what are the chances? I would be holding my breath if you're an Eagle fan out there as to who this may have spread to, because he had close contact, was yelling at Jalen Hurts. He was in close contact with the entire team. So you name it, big name player could be in COVID issue as far as going into Sunday's game. And obviously, hopefully, everything aside, you hope Sirianni is going to be fine because of what can happen with COVID. But this one, to me, is just the first ball to drop, and I would hold my breath at which other ones come down in the next day or two.
No, you're absolutely right. And by the way, he is speaking, or he just spoke. He did say passing game coordinator Kevin Petula would be the head coach in his absence. So there's your answer to that question there. But you just brought up a great point, is that he's feeling symptomatic. He's on the sideline last night, and he's around everybody in that game. So you wonder how many different guys you're going to start to hear are having some sort of symptoms or at least getting tested. Now, this whole new NFL testing thing, if they're asymptomatic and they have the vaccine, are they even going to test these guys? That's a whole nother new thing that could come into play here. This is a situation where he was feeling symptomatic.
Yeah, and you know what? I guess you have to give him credit for not trying to hide it. And that was when I saw the policy. That's what I thought might happen with this, is that these guys would walk in feeling, symptomatic, but walk by the doctor with, hey, I'm good, got my vaccine, I'm good, and like 5 minutes later start coughing and all that stuff and try to hide it. Obviously, Sirianni's not doing that. And that's a good thing. I mean, that only encourages that this new policy can work. So, yeah, I guess it comes down to,
Well, we saw it earlier today, too. We saw it earlier today, too, Scott, where Robert Saleh, he voluntarily said that he, couldn't coach for the Jets. So he has COVID.
Yeah, and I mean, this brings up a bigger issue for me, which is this is obviously not a good time for COVID around this country. It's hitting every person, every line of work, every business that's out there, everybody traveling for the holidays. And you just wonder what is going to happen in a couple of weeks as these playoff games come up. They will not want to move those. They moved the Eagles game. I wouldn't be surprised. Look, you moved it, which did not help the Eagles. If a couple of Eagles come up with COVID, I know they don't want to move games, but if it gets to a point where the Eagles have a similar issue to what Washington had, do you need to move the Giants game back? And I know they won't want to move another Eagles home game, but there's a lot of issues here that go deeper than just, okay, Nick Sirianni tested positive. What next? What does it mean beyond that? And my bigger question is, what happens if, Aaron Rodgers tests positive again the week of a playoff game? The league wants their big stars out there in those big moments. And I don't think this is going away over the next few weeks.
No. It's certain that, that the walls feel like they're caving in because I mean, at this point, I almost joked. I mean, just tweet to me who's available for the NBA. It feels like the Nets game is canceled again. The NBA put that rule in where it's like, just sign a guy to a 10-day contract. Well, for whatever reason, they canceled the Nets game. I mean, they're at the point where they've lost so many guys that they're like, all right, you're not even really the Nets anymore. Like, you don't even have enough guys who were originally on your roster to make this happen. So, that's the news that just came down. Nick Sirianni has tested positive for COVID, and it's symptomatic. So he said he woke up this morning and he just wasn't feeling it. Now, he did seem he did have some energy in the post game last night.
Yeah, and I think that's just running on the adrenaline of that victory, which, he knew that was a staple victory for him. I mean, they've been fighting to get back to 500 after the way this season started. And look, let's talk about Sirianni. This guy, in my opinion, deserves all the credit in the world for, as much as I blasted him early on for not having an idea what he wanted to do offensively, has really embraced that run game and has let that really be the staple of this team. Offensively, defensively, special teams, that's what this team is. They're a running team, and they're number one in the league rushing. They are by far out rushing their opponents over that 7-game span by almost 1,000 yards. It's incredible. And Sirianni had this team go through this extended layoff. And I don't think we should have been surprised that they were a little rusty coming out of it. They're usually rusty coming out of a regular bye, let alone an extended one. And they clicked it into place. He had them ready to play for all intents and purposes, and they just started executing what they do. And I know Washington was depleted in certain areas and was dealing with they had their third-string quarterback out there. But look, they still had to go out and win the game. They came back from a 10-point deficit to score 20 unanswered and eventually win the game by 10. I just think Nick Sirianni has done a great job with this team. And, you wonder how much will they miss his presence and his leadership that he's been giving them over the last few weeks. Now that they finally clawed their way back up to 500, they're sitting in a great position related to the playoffs. I know the Vikings are just in front of them, but looking at the Vikings schedule, I don't really look. The Bears lost that game the other day more than the Vikings won it. And I think the Eagles are going to have a chance here as long as if they win out, I think they're in. I think they can even lose one and potentially still get in based on the Vikings schedule. So credit to Nick Sirianni. And, you just hope that they find a way to, not skip a beat without his leadership in the building.
Hey, I didn't see a grade for Gannon, but what did you think of his, a lot of people, he wasn't aggressive. I feel like I give him a pass on not being aggressive only because he said, look, this guy, I just don't want him to throw the ball down the field. I don't want to have him just kind of throw it up there, pass interferences, because I feel like I can win up front?
Yeah, I thought about grading him, and I found myself confused as to really what to give him, because the first touchdown, his defense was pinned in basically in the red zone right away. Hard to really count that against them. Then they did hold off the turnover that Jalen Hurts had. They held them to 3. And then they didn't give up really anything else until later in the game when they had a good lead. So what did I see? I saw, yes, a somewhat passive game plan, which probably shouldn't have been too unexpected, given that he just didn't want to see, Gilbert beat him downfield, like you said. I would have liked to have seen them just, they were hitting the quarterback. They were getting in there with their pass rush. Imagine what could have happened if you blitzed a couple of times early on to not let him get in a rhythm. I mean, he started off throwing and completing some passes, and I would have said, boy, we really need to get in his face a little more then and not wait to do it later. But they did start to shut down the running game, and once they got the lead, this team really does play well with the lead. His defense does play well with the lead. The problem is sometimes they have a hard time getting there when they're not being very aggressive at the jump. So, look, I've been saying this. You've been hearing it from me every week. I'm all in favor of an aggressive defensive game plan. That's what this town has been built on. It's a blue collar town. We're all about imposing our will and saying, we want to bring the game to you. We want our, mannerisms and our dedication to being physical coming to you. That's the way the city has been based on, its fans. And a lot of its defenses in the past that have been successful have been that way. It's hard to watch sometimes, and I thought he was passive at the beginning, but I saw Fletcher Cox hanging out with him a lot during the game, and I wonder if Fletch got him to fix some things or change some things up a little bit. And either way, it started to work obviously by the end. So Gannon, I might have given him a C, but they played well, and it's hard to give him a C and maybe it be a B based on what they did. Look, they did enough to win, and I guess that's all that matters right now.
All right, Kevin, Scott, I want to ask you this as we kind of, big picture this. The Eagles are 7-7. They won 4 games last year. They're still in the mix for a playoff spot. I think they've exceeded some people's expectations. What does Jeff Lurie think about where his organization is? And I ask that knowing a lot of people who don't like Howie Roseman. They think he's the biggest problem this team has. Is Jeff Lurie saying, Howie, great job getting us at where we are right now, 7-7. We're moving in the right direction. We've got 3 picks. You've put us in a great position. Do you think he is happy with the state of his organization?
It's funny you asked that, because I thought something along those lines after that game was over last night for several reasons. First of all, because they are in every sense a running team, and we all know Jeffrey Lurie loves to see the ball get thrown all over the field. So there's that side of it. The Howie Roseman side, I feel like he's been a huge Howie's my guy. I'm always with him. I feel like the success lately, he will spin towards, Howie deserving credit for it. And there have been, look, Howie deserves some credit. You can't say that he doesn't. But whether or not Jeffrey Lurie is thrilled with where his franchise is right now, that is a great question. I still think he wants a big name quarterback. And that's the one reason I'm not sold on the fact that Jalen Hurts will be the starter week 1 next year. But that being said, because they were one of 2 games last night, there's a whole lot being said about Jeffrey Lurie's quarterback today after that performance last night. So I think Lurie's happy with the fact that they had the 1 down year and they're relevant with 3 weeks to go. And quite frankly, the arrow's pointing in the up direction right now. So I'm sure Lurie's happy about that. But I would love to know what he thinks of his quarterback at this point and what he intends to do going forward next year. Of course, none of us know that. But I would think that he's pointing at Howie right now going, Howie, great job, buddy. You did it again. We're back, and I don't know if that's a good thing with all the draft picks coming up this year, but I think he's happy. Whether I would say he's ecstatic, I don't know. I'd go that far.
All right. Scott Grayson, Fox 29, Grayson's grades. The full list of grades are posted at 97.3 ESPN.com. We've got Miles Sanders, Greg Ward, Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni, Devontae Smith, Jalen Reagor, Jordan Howard, Darius Slay, and more. Head to 97.3ESPN.com. Scott, Merry Christmas to you and your family. Obviously, the Eagles are right back at it on Sunday against the Giants, but as you kind of hinted at, we'll see what happens. Nick Sirianni has tested positive for COVID. What does that mean for the rest of the organization and this game on Sunday? I feel like there's a lot to unpack. Fox 29 is where you can see Scott Grayson on the television and after every Eagles game here for Grayson's Grades. Scott, we always appreciate it and enjoy the segment, man.
I love it too. Thanks, Mike. Happy holidays.
All right, that's Scott Grayson from Fox 29 here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. We appreciate Scott as always. He's been a longtime member of the Sports Bash. Grayson's Grades, one of the most read pieces on our website, 97.3ESPN.com. It appears you guys love the grades as well. When we come back, Nick Sirianni, you'll hear it from the horse's mouth. He tested positive for COVID. He'll explain it all to you. Coming up next, we have Nick's day after press conference coming up for you here on the Sports Bash. Jeff Mosher will react at football at 4. My NFL who's in, who's out on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. 3:33, you're going to hear from Nick Sirianni, but first I want to remind you the Sports Bash is brought to you by your Delaware Valley Acura dealers. With new, fresh inventory arriving daily, find your Acura today. Check out Acura's award-winning lineup online, DelValAcuraDealers.com. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni, his day after press conference. We have it for you in just a couple of moments. You'll hear from Nick. He did test positive for COVID, so he will be coaching remotely this week. Do not know about the situation with the Giants game this weekend. He does mention who will coach for him in the event that he is unable to go. We'll have that for you in the press conference, which we'll have for you right now here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN.
Dave Zangaro and then Bo Wolf.
Hey, Nick, first off, how are you feeling and how did everything go down with the process of getting tested and what's the plan for the rest of the week without you potentially being there?
Yeah, wasn't feeling great this morning when I woke up and just got tested, and obviously we are where we are right now. I mean, I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling a little bit better now, which is good. And then the rest of the week, I'll be in every meeting as if, obviously virtually, as if that, every single meeting, every quarterback meeting, every offensive meeting, every team meeting, I'll be running those. And yeah, just business as usual.
Who runs practice?
Well, practice runs itself, really, to be 100% honest with you, right? You blow the horn, you go to period to period. When I'm not a big talker, to be honest with you. After, I talk to them a lot in team meetings. I talk to our guys a lot in team meetings. Breakdowns normally go, hey, I may say one thing, but normally I'm like, hey, Lane, break us down. So players will break us down as normal. So business as usual.
Go ahead, Bo, and then Mike K.
So if you are not able to coach on Sunday, Nick, are you willing to tell us who would be the coach, or you want to keep that close to the vest?
Yeah, Kevin Patullo, and we'll do all the, whether we're going for it on fourth down, different situations like that, the coin toss, this and that. The reason I chose the reason that I went with Kevin there, Jamal Singleton will help with things as well. But the reason Kevin will be in charge there is because Kevin doesn't have a position to coach. Kevin helps with a lot of different aspects throughout the game. I want there to be as little change as possible. I don't want Jamal have to think about that during, while he's coaching a position. So Kevin's involved in all those conversations of, coin toss and going for it on fourth down, as it is anyway. So it's just a natural transition for Kevin to be able to do that.
Go ahead, Mike, and then Jeff McLean.
Hey, Nick, with this 5-game turnaround, is there any concern for just the timetable of the turnaround of you being able to be cleared?
Oh, the 5-day turnaround there. Yeah, I mean, we'll just see what the numbers say, and if I'm hopefully I'll be ready to go on Sunday. If not, we've been prepared for this. I'm very confident in what we did as far as getting ahead of everything last week and the last couple of weeks of being separated, putting ourselves almost in protocol as it was, just with the extra precautions we took. Yeah, we'll see what the numbers say. But if I'm not going to be there on game, like I said, everything up till game day will be very normal, except that I'm not in the building. And so, but I'll be running everything the same way, because I'm the head coach. And but as far as Sunday goes, we'll play that by ear and see what happens.
Go ahead, Jeff, and then Zach Berman.
Nick, what was your reaction when you found out?
I'm sorry, who asked me that? Jeff? I didn't see.
Yeah, reaction when you found out you tested positive.
Right. Nah, just I guess the first thing was let me get away from everybody. Let's make sure my family's good, and pretty much that's it. And then basically, Jeff, it was how I get all my stuff at the hotel where I'm staying to to make sure I have everything I need to get ready for this game. I mean, before I thought about anything else about like what I'm going to eat or anything like that, I wanted to make sure I have my computer in here and my film in here to make sure I can watch and prepare for this game.
Go ahead, Zach, and then John McMullen.
Hey, Nick, how's the rest of your staff at this point? And how much work were you guys able to do in game planning and preparing in the days before yesterday's game?
Yeah, we got a big portion of it done, which is good. You know, obviously we came in here thinking, hey, today's going to be, you know, it's Wednesday, so we got to be caught up to where we would on Wednesday, and I'm confident that we are. And so now it's the rest of the game planning from Wednesday on, and the rest of the staff's good. You know, and again, I'll get more information from our medical staff here within the next couple hours of, you know, where everybody is as far as that goes. But we're in a good spot right now where we normally are on Wednesday, and where you are normally on Wednesdays, you know, you got a big portion of the game plan done, and that's where we are right now.
Go ahead, John, and then Les Bowen.
Hey, Nick, hope you're feeling better soon. What can you kind of tell us about Kevin Petula? I remember when you got the job, you mentioned how much you were putting on Kevin's shoulders, and it was evident pretty quickly that you guys were close. What about him makes you think he can handle this if you're not able to go on Sunday?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, during the game, it's a lot of the things during the game is being able to, you know, the decision making as far as, you know, and obviously Shane and I have been calling it all together, the game together the entire year, right? I mean, I know for whatever reason I get credit for or the other way around when it doesn't go good for the play calling. And so, you know, but Shane and I have been calling it together the entire year. Shane's done a great job there. So, but as far as Kevin goes, like I said, you know, the decisions that are being made there are, you know, the fourth down decisions. It was a big chunk of them, and obviously, you know, the pregame stuff of going forward as far as, you know, receiving, kicking, receiving, which way you want to defend, and that all those things happen with the communication, you know, with everybody. So Kevin's got a great relationship, obviously, with Jonathan as well. So he'll be able to communicate that back and forth. So it's just Kevin being, you know, the person that he is, and having that relationship with everybody on our staff. Did I answer your question enough?
Yeah. Thanks, Nick.
Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead, Les, and then Ruben Frank.
Yeah. Hi, Nick. I had a question ready, and I guess I'm going to stick with it, even though this has certainly changed the whole scenario here. But you had a real short week earlier in the year. You ended up, not playing a very good game against Tampa. What did you learn from that? And how are you going to approach this week in terms of balancing physical readiness with, the fact that everybody just played Tuesday night?
Sure. You know, we actually have an extra day. And so, you know, that, you know, when you play Thursday night, obviously we had one less day, you know, getting ready for Tampa. Again, we didn't play good enough in Tampa. We didn't coach good enough in Tampa and against Tampa. And so, you know, those were some of the contributors to us not winning that football game. You know, so we have that extra day to get ready. You know, after any type of schedule, you always are looking at, in any type of schedule, like, what can we do to get better from this? And so we've made tweaks after, you know, our Tampa game. And maybe this period should be a little bit longer than this. Maybe this third down should go this day, this and that. And so we've made those adjustments just like we would with everything else that we thought would be better. And then, like I said, with this day, you get one extra day. And so we're deciding, you know, periods that we have are full speed, seeing how the guys feel. You know, Friday there might be some full speed things, but again, want to see how everybody feels as we get together with the medical staff, but just making those tweaks. just making those tweaks less, just to make sure that we're better, like we do in everything. Hey, how do we run this play better? And you go into the same things like, all right, I want to, maybe we should do this with this play, and it's the same thing with scheduling.
Thank you.
We'll go to Ruben and Martin Frank.
Hey, Nick, hope you get through this quickly. If I could just, you're right there. If I could just clarify, are you saying Kevin would call plays Sunday if you're not back, or would Shane do it?
Shane would.
And Shane would. And part two of that is, when you say that you and Shane have both been calling plays, how did two people call plays? And like, were you alternating drives or quarters? And could you just kind of expound on that a little?
Yeah. No, not alternate. We're just calling it together. Like, Shane's the one calling it into the quarterback. We're talking about the series of plays before each go around. Like, it's like, hey, we're going to run this, and this on this one. And we know the flow of what we're going to do. Shane calls it in, but we discuss of what that flow is going to be before each one. And then Shane rolls with that series of 5 plays. And then I'll say, so it could be a series of different, it could be different each series, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, sometimes Shane's just going to roll with those 5, 6 plays that we talked about. And sometimes it's going to be Shane's going to call it in the order we talked about, and then I'm going to tell him, no, I want this here. So it's just, we're doing everything together. We talk about the third downs beforehand. That's kind of cemented in before the drive starts. Hey, this is our next 3rd and 2 to 3. This is our next 4 to 6, etc. Next red zone call at each section of the red zone. Next time we're going to do whatever it is. So we're just calling it together based off of the collaboration. And like I said, I think he's done a great job.
Go ahead, Martin, and then John Clark.
Martin, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Hope you're feeling all right. Speaking of COVID, obviously you guys had Landon and Andre Dillard test positive this week, both offensive linemen. Now you kind of have it. How worried are you about like a possible outbreak? And if there is one, would you like lobby the NFL to maybe push your game back against the Giants today or something like that?
Well, like I said, we took a lot of precautions as far as last week, the last couple of weeks of just taking more precautions, knowing that this was getting, the pandemic was just, getting more and more, I don't want to say serious because it's always been serious, or, just the spread was more rapid, or whatever however you want to say it. So we've taken more precautions even these last couple of weeks. So, that doesn't mean that you're not going to have an outbreak. So, but I'm not going to play a hypothetical there. I feel like we've done the right things, and we'll play it by ear if that does happen. Again, the NFL's done a good job of, putting the protocols in place and all that. And so it's not my job to lobby for anything. They're going to do what they think's best for the players, and they're going to think they're going to do what they think's best for the coaches, and they're going to do what they think's best for the league. And we'll trust that, and we'll play when they tell us to play.
We'll take one more question here from John Clark.
Nick, good to hear you're doing okay at this point. Last night, were you feeling any issues last night? I did notice that when you shook hands with Ron Rivera, I believe you put on a mask or wanted to make sure you were covered. And how important is it to look out for one another when we're going through this as a team and as a league?
Yeah, I felt fine last night. Again, Ron was wearing a mask there, and again, we were wearing masks inside, and I wanted to, obviously with Coach Rivera wearing a mask, I wanted to wear a mask as well. I just didn't. I kind of just covered myself up like this. When I went in there, I kind of put my face under there. So again, but I felt fine last night, and again, we were inside, we were wearing masks like we were. And so again, wanted to do that when I shook people's hands as well.
All right. Thanks for the time, Coach.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, there's Nick Sirianni. A lot of questions about him testing positive for COVID, and he'll work remotely this week. If he cannot coach the game, Kevin Patullo, who is the offensive pass game coordinator, he would coach the game on Sunday. Shane Steichen, the offensive coordinator, he would call the plays. More Sports Bash on the way. It's brought to you by Deborah Heart and Lung Center. When it's your heart, you don't take chances. Be sure, demanddeborah.org. 3:53 next hour, football at 4 with Jeff Mosher. We'll get his observations from the game last night. I want to ask him about what he thinks Jeff Lurie thinks about where his team is right now. 7-7 in the midst of the playoff race. Certainly have exceeded a lot of people's expectations. I would like to know, all right, if you're listening out there right now, and way back when I said this team can make the playoffs, I want you to remember what name you called me. And if you want to apologize now, like the guy who texted in profusely that I was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Many people will judge and say things, but they never apologize. Like, hey, man, you know what? You said that this team could be a playoff team. I thought you were nuts, but I want to give you credit for that now. How many people are going to step up and be that guy? I welcome you. 609-403-0973. Because let me tell you, I have a list of all of you who all said I was a nut, a homer, an idiot, a complete moron. And I told you from the beginning, there's one reason why I think this team could be good. Their offensive line is better than everybody else's. And I maintain, if their offensive line could stay healthy, this team could be a playoff team. I said it in May, June, July, August, September, October, November, and here we are in December. And I know it pains many of you to say, God dang it, that Mike Gill was right again. I never get the people that say, though, you know what? I thought you were wrong. I thought you were way off base. I hear a lot when you say you're wrong and off base. I heard it in May and June and July and August and September and October and November and December. I was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, you said. But here they are, 7-7. And guess what? I will take my apologies now in the form of a text message, 609-403-0973. I welcome you to be the guy that says, I said you were wrong, but I got to admit, maybe you knew more than I did. It's okay. You can admit it. I'll take those text messages now. I'll read them off next hour if you're big enough to send them. Jeff Mosher has football at 4 coming up next. Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you locally by Caesars Entertainment Group of Atlantic City. Come experience the ultimate sports destinations all season long. Wild Wild West, Tropicana, Harris Resort, Atlantic City. Book your game day experience today at Caesars.com. Jeff Mosher going to join me for today's Football at 4 in just a couple of minutes. He said he's running a couple of minutes late. So we'll I do want to read off some of the text messages. Now, I asked you, if you were somebody at the beginning of the year that thought I was nuts for saying the Eagles could make the playoffs, I gave you the opportunity to send me a text and kind of say, hey, man, I thought you were off base, thought you were an idiot. You called me an idiot. Now, I got a bunch of text messages I'll read off here. You can step up and say, hey, you know what? You proved me wrong. Because a lot of times people like to tell me when I'm the wrong or you don't agree with me, but you never want to apologize when you're wrong and I'm right. That never happens. Let's have a little fun with that. 609-403-0973. This one's funny. Mike, I was right there with you, brother. Thought they could go 10-7, 9-8. Just had to get past all those big boys teams in the beginning of the season. Then it was division games and Jets, Atlanta, Carolina, all winnable games. Thanks, Luke from Ventnor. Well, Luke, I'm glad that you were right there with me. I guess people probably in your circle of friends probably said that you were an idiot or you were wrong or, you were – where was the one guy? He called me cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I haven't heard from that guy again, right? Told me I was crazy. Every time I would write a story about, hey, it looks like the Eagles are in a playoff push here, I'd get the Jim Mora Jr. gifts. People would tell me, playoffs, what are you, crazy? No, I'm not crazy. I just study a lot of this stuff. And I said, look, the NFL is coaching. It's interior line play. The offensive line is the difference in this league. You could have great skill players like the Minnesota Vikings do. They're 7-7 for a reason. Their coaching staff is average. Their offensive line is awful. The Eagles have got to give Nick Sirianni credit. They are very well prepared. He's done a really good job. They have a really good offensive line. That is the big difference here. I got more text messages we'll get to. We'll read them off throughout the show. But I'll give you guys more of an opportunity if you want to step up. 609-403-0973. I really want to hear from the guy who said I was cuckoo for Cocoa Puff. That really hurts my feelings. All right, Jeff Mosher's here for Football at 4. As the Eagles win, they get to 7-7. They're now the 8th seed in the NFC, squarely in the playoff race, obviously, but a lot to unpack from last night. What's going on, Jeff Mosher?
What's up, Mike? I'm a big fan of Cocoa Puffs. Maybe you should look at the bright side. It's a great cereal.
I do like the cereal. It's just, to be called out that you have mental, like I might have a screw loose was, a little.
Well, yeah, certainly not for that. Maybe for other things, but not for suggesting the Eagles might make the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, I said, you have situations where people who listen, they hide behind these handles and stuff and they call you names. It's very hurtful.
Oh, I'm aware of them. They are out there.
Like this gentleman who says, when the hell have you ever apologized when you're wrong? You've got some cones. I don't have very many instances when I'm wrong, but when I am, I do say, I got that one wrong. I do it all the time. It's just people hear what they want to hear. That's all. I was wrong on a lot of things, and I usually will say when it is. But unfortunately, it's not a two-way street with these listeners.
No, it never is. Never
right?
is. I'm fortunate. I'm actually, this has been statistically proven. I'm never wrong. So I don't know what it's like. So
I'm not wrong often. Most times I'm kind of right on the money, but I don't hear a lot of, hey man, I called you some, like people have gall to say I have stones. I don't call people names. I don't use the language that these people use behind these fake handles on Twitter.
These keyboard warriors, man, they're at it every day.
Yeah. The other day I'm having a conversation with a couple of friends of mine who have real names on Twitter, Scott and Mark. And I said, I helped the guy out. This whole thing with the ESPN YouTube TV. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
So I said, hey, they came to an agreement. I was just letting you guys know. These are friends of mine, people who have real names. I said, I'm a man of the people. I'm helping out the people who had this problem. Some guy's like, yeah, sure. I said, no, like real people, not bots with fake Twitter handles.
Right.
Tell me your real name. show your face, and then we can have a normal conversation. That's all.
Yes, not Mr. Name Number, long number with 6 digits after it, like, Greg 0976 tell 123449.
One that's been blocked or hidden like 50 times, and you just change from capital T to lowercase t to change it. All right, Moshe, let's dive into a bunch of stuff here. Jalen Hurts last night got off to a slow start. Interception, not his fault. Fumble, probably his fault. Gets chewed out on the sideline, and then really turns it around. Maybe his best bounce back, considering the Minshew stuff hanging over his head. Hadn't played in over 2 weeks. There was a lot on the line for him last night.
There was a lot. I mean, division. He also, you didn't mention, but I'm sure this goes into the pot, that he was he had not beaten an NFC East team going into that game. And that made that game really important. You couldn't fall to 0-3 and really kind of expect that you're going to go 3-0 the rest of your slate against the same division teams that you've lost to all the time. So everything was on the table for him. Played well, shaky start, no doubt about it. Took the constructive criticism on the sideline there from Nick Sirianni. Made some nice throws. The run game is obviously what won them the game. I really enjoyed the play. I thought the play calling was good, and I liked the sequence to me that really won it was after the Washington scored a touchdown, and then they get the 34-yarder, which is really just kind of a screen to Rager. He turns upfield quickly, and then what a beautiful catch by Greg Ward. I mean, to be able to respond there with a touchdown after giving up a touchdown and making that game tight was that was like a total team. Jalen made good plays. Rager caught the ball. Greg Ward made a great catch. There was excellent blocking on the screen for Rager. The offensive line ran the ball and running backs ran the ball well. That was a real total team right there.
Yeah, and I know that the running game is a big one. 41 carries, over 230 yards in the game. Sanders, Howard, that duo really just kind of put the game to rest. But Hurts, 20 of 26, almost 300 yards. I really thought the running game, but the use of Goddard. We've talked so much this year about getting Goddard more involved. Minshew got him involved, and Hurts said, "Hold my beer."
Yeah, and Goddard said, "Here, hold my beer," a couple of times because he almost didn't seem to want the ball. I mean, there were 2 screens that, my God, I can only imagine what he would have finished with if he had just caught the ball and headed upfield, because both of those screens looked very well developed, and it looked like there was a lot of green ahead of him. And I'm a little bit bitter because I lost my fantasy first round by 1 point, and I had Goddard. So if he catches any one of those, I win easily because it's 1 point for the catch and then however many yards. But nonetheless, it was a good connection. It was an important connection. And yes, and as we speak, LaRaven Clark is now on the COVID-19 list. So I'm sure we'll get into that. But yeah, I thought that connection was – look, Mike, I think that – and we've talked about this over these next 3 games, depending on who's available, of course. The pass offense should go through Dallas Goedert. Devontae Smith's great. I'm not trying to knock the kid, but Goddard is your weapon right now that is really hard to defend because you can play him all over the field. And to me, that's where it's got to go. It's got to be Goddard 1, Devontae Smith 2, and anybody else who contributes is great, but that's where your pass offense should go through.
You just mentioned some of the COVID stuff, so let's deal with that real quick because obviously a big one, Nick Sirianni, is symptomatic, and that would seem to be possible that he may not be ready to go for Sunday against the Giants with only 5 days to go. But you would imagine he coached the game last night. He's in there with a lot. I would imagine more names are going to start rolling out here pretty shortly, wouldn't you?
Yes. I mean, I guess the troubling trend is 2 things. One, now that we know that LaRaven Clark is on the COVID list, he's now the 3rd offensive lineman in 3 or 4 days with Landon Dickerson and Andre Dillard. So you're concerned, about depth at that position. You're concerned that if it's got 3 offensive linemen in 4 days, that maybe some other offensive linemen may come down with this as well. So we'll see. And then obviously with Nick Sirianni, I mean, he's your head coach. He's done a nice job here over the last 6-7 weeks, turning things around. He's not going to be there. You know, the Saints were without Sean Payton, and he's as good as they come, and they still beat the defending Super Bowl champ Buccaneers. Now, they had some help in the Bucs losing Godwin and Fournette and some others, but they did play well without their head coach because they had a veteran like Dennis Allen who'd been a head coach before. With the Eagles, you're looking at, Shane Steichen, never been a head coach. Kevin Patullo is really kind of a pass game specialist. Jonathan Gannon, first-time play caller himself. So you worry a little bit about their ability to kind of take the reins if Nick Sirianni can't be back. But the secondary worry is that the head coach is always kind of around a lot of people. So you wonder if just in general, I know they were outside last night, but he got in Jalen's face in an argument. You just worried now, how much is this thing going to spread around the team?
Yeah, that's a big one is, by the way, he was in the face of his quarterback last night, giving him the business, and you wonder all that. The quarterback room, he's probably around Minshew. He's probably around Hurts. That wouldn't be surprised if you read that those two guys had something going down. Other injury news, Mailata's up on the injury report that just popped out today, as is Miles Sanders. Jordan Mailata, ankle, did not practice. Miles Sanders, no, this is just a estimation. They didn't practice. They had a kind of a weightlifting thing today. But Sanders quad, Mailata ankle, Howard knee, that would not be good.
Wonder if Miles hurt his quad carrying Jalen Reagor on his back on social media there. Because I'm not killing Miles for that. I'm just making a joke because, Miles, I think, did a good thing that a player can do, which is come to the defense of a teammate. But obviously that gets you a lot of backlash on social media from the fans. So he's taking the bullet for Jalen Reagor.
Hey, let's talk about that offensive line, because I asked the question earlier in the show, and I want to get your opinion on it. Like, what does Jeff Lurie think about this team right now? They're 7-7. They're clearly in a playoff race. I would imagine they're a little bit further along than they thought. They don't have this star quarterback. They don't have this elite passing game. So when he sits down at night, does he say, man, we're in good shape. We're 7-7. We got 3 first-round picks. Is he not happy that they're kind of in the middle here? What do you think Jeff Lurie thinks about where this team is?
If one thing Jeffrey Lurie has shown is that he's in the moment, he can enjoy something like this. And I think he would hold this team to a different standard than the 2018 team that had to win a game in Green Bay by running instead of passing. I think he holds this team to a different standard because it's in transition and all the reasons you just mentioned. I think he can appreciate it, but at the same time, when the offseason comes, I think he has the ability to step back and look at it in a bigger picture with Howie Roseman and with Nick Sirianni and say, well, is this what we are going to be now? I can't imagine that he feels that that's what they're going to be for the rest of the year. I mean, this is nice. They're running for a lot of yards. They are winning more games now, but they still haven't beat a pretty good team. Well, New Orleans is a pretty good team, but I think there's a difference when they've got Trevor Siemian in as to now with Taysom Hill. The Broncos are a decent team. I just don't think that Jeffrey Lurie will look at this unless they really run the table here and then maybe win a playoff game and say that this is the most viable way to build the team and operate the team going forward. I don't think he will think that.
You look around and you say, why is this team winning? Well, they have a really good run game. Why do they have a really good run game? I mean, they have a really good offensive line. They're to their third left guard, their third right guard. They've really stockpiled that position and done a really good job. And, we may have touched on this in the past, but I know he wants this passing attack, but is this league kind of ripe for a team to say, your defense is built to stop the pass. We're going to build a team with offensive line, cheap running backs, cheap quarterback, and try to stop that.
The problem is the evidence will show you that type of team can only go so far. And Jeffrey Lurie's big in data and analytics, and he's going to take what you just said and say, that's great. And that got the Tennessee Titans to the conference championship game a couple of years ago. And it got them a 17-point lead against the Chiefs. And then all of a sudden they were down by 17 points by the end of the game because the Chiefs had a wicked passing offense. And I'm sure he's going to say the same about the Ravens winning 14 games with a running quarterback and a rush offense, and then not really being able to win a Super Bowl. And who won the Super Bowl last year? It was Tom Brady with all his passing weapons. And who's going to win the Super Bowl this year? Is it going to be the Patriots in their running game? Is it going to be?
Well, Fournette had a pretty big playoff run last year.
Leonard Fournette did have a big playoff run, but really at the end of the day, Tom Brady I think he threw 3 touchdowns in the game against Green Bay. I mean, it's Tom Brady and his weapons. That's what people will look at, and they'll say that their run game is an extension of having to defend all those passes in light boxes. So at the end of the day, I still think that they're going to want more of a dynamic passing offense. And I don't know until we see a run first type team win it all that anybody's going to jump on that bandwagon that's the way you want to be.
Yeah, it just and Jeff and I are going to do the state of the Eagles on Friday. We will kind of go over that, where this team is with the offensive line, and you say that because I was bringing this up the other day. Like, you're watching Justin Fields struggle, Zach Wilson struggle. You're watching Trey Lance doesn't get on the field. I would imagine when he did, he wasn't playing very well. He struggled. Even Trevor Lawrence has struggled. These teams that reach for quarterbacks because they need to get a quarterback in their head, and it just throws their franchise back 4 or 5 years again. They're just perpetually in this, we need a quarterback. So they just grab a guy who probably shouldn't be drafted where he is, but because you need one, maybe these teams start to say, much like the running back, you know what? Let's build our team and then try to find a quarterback somewhere down the line so we don't have to pay these guys that much. Because what happens in Tennessee? They pay Tannehill. Well, all of a sudden, the rest of the team can't get paid. So now that team hits mediocrity. Right. Wilson wins a Super Bowl, and then you have to pay him. Well, then you can't pay anybody else.
There you go. Yeah, the problem isn't wanting a good quarterback. I agree with you on that. I mean, I think teams are always going to look to get a great quarterback, and I still think you have to have a pretty darn good one, if not a great one, to win a Super Bowl. The issue is teams, and they've been doing this for years, teams acknowledge that they take quarterbacks higher than they should because they know somebody else will. It's a weird kind of rat race where I've got to make a mistake to avoid somebody else making that mistake before I do. And that's what gets to this. I'm going to trade from 3 to 2 to get Mitchell Trubisky when, or Daniel Jones, I'm going to pick at 6 when he's probably a second round grade, things of that nature. And it gets you at some level of stability that you're hoping to get, but not enough. And in some cases, you're just wrong, and you're pressing the reset button. Like, you could say the Jets shouldn't have taken Zach Wilson number 2. That was too high for him. But if they had just stayed with Sam Darnold, they'd be in no better spot today. Darnold was not very good, and he was injured all the time. So really what they've got to do is make that risk. But it shows you the most important thing to do is, if you're going to do that, is to hit on your other draft picks and build your running game and defense up to be able to support your learning quarterback.
Right. Well, it's like the Eagles have now this offensive line. They have a really good run game. They have Goddard, who they got in the second round. They've got Smith, who they got in the first round. They can run. They have 3 picks next year, and it's like, do we just have a quarterback that can win? Maybe he's not the reason we win, but if we just keep putting more talent around guys like that, is that a good enough recipe? I don't know. Are we finding that out about Hurts?
I don't know. That's a great question. I think you can put both sides of the argument to the test. You could say, man, look what we've been able to do.
I only bring it up like this, Moshe, too. There's only a Brady. There's one Rodgers. I feel like everybody drafts these guys thinking we're getting the next quarterback that's going to change the dynamics of the league, and that just doesn't happen. So I don't understand why these teams keep doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that it doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen at the rate that coaches want it to happen and organizations want it to happen.
But another big thing
the Chiefs feel pretty good about taking Mahomes in top 10, and I'm sure the Chargers feel pretty good about getting. Did
you see
Herbert.
The story today that I guess McAdoo, he was really pushing hard to get Mahomes?
For what team? When he was with the Giants?
When he was with the Giants. Apparently, he was all about Mahomes. He wanted to get Mahomes. But it's almost too, what team gets him? Zach Wilson plays in New England. Is he a complete bust right now? Probably not. It's that Saleh and his team, they should understand, hey, we don't have the right coaching staff to deal with a guy like this. So let's take a player that works with what we do. I feel like the NFL is a league where you need to trust the coaching staff and the coaching scheme more than the players, because the difference in level of talent of players is so minute. So that better preparation, scheme, and coaching beats better talent.
I do think that you're seeing a trend now over the last few years, but more so this year, of teams being more recognizable of that when they don't have the elite quarterback that they thought they had, switching then to the ground game. I mean, you mentioned the Patriots doing it now with Mac Jones, who might be wind up being, he's a rookie. You've been seeing Kevin Stefanski do that for the last 2 years since he became Browns coach with Baker Mayfield. Baker is limited in many ways, so he runs the ball really well with Chubb and with Kareem Hunt. And Minnesota runs the ball a lot with Dalvin Cook. And, of course, Tennessee started this years ago with Ryan Tannehill. They like Ryan Tannehill, but they also know if he throws the ball 40 times a game, it's a bad situation for them. So they run it with Derrick Henry. So I feel like 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, teams were still reluctant to do that. If they had a mediocre quarterback, their thought was, we're just going to make them better by throwing more reps. So you are seeing a little bit of a counter to that philosophically. I agree with you. I just don't know that the philosophy of still trying to get that quarterback high in the draft is going to change much.
Yeah. I just, last night I thought Hurts played a pretty good game, and it made me feel like, you know what? Can I win a Super Bowl with this guy? I'm not sure, but I can get Aaron Rodgers. I only have one Super Bowl. I might have Aaron Rodgers and still only win one Super Bowl.
Yeah, but I mean that's I don't think teams think that way, Mike. I mean, obviously, Phillip Rivers never won any Super Bowls. He was a great pick. You would make that pick 1,000 times out of 1,000. He didn't win a Super Bowl. Ben Roethlisberger's been a great quarterback. He's only won 2 Super Bowls. If we're going to only say only one, two is only one more than one, but that's still great.
I know.
I mean, once Tom Brady is over, and at some point it's going to happen, it's going to be a free for all unless somebody else emerges. Maybe it's Mahomes who just wins it every year.
But I think the point that I'm making is the Eagles have this unique situation where they're 7-7. They might make the playoffs, and they have 3 first-round picks.
Yeah.
Don't blow the situation where you have a chance to add 3 very talented players because you want to go reach on a quarterback, because there's no given that any of these quarterbacks is going to be any more give you a better chance than the guy you already have.
Well, but that's your kind of, no offense, because a lot of people feel this way, and people sitting in my seat too. That's your 50,000 feet from above take on it. That these guys in the draft are just as much of they may evaluate any of these 3 guys and see boundless potential and say, that guy sees the field. That guy can't run like Jalen. He's pretty good, but he sees the field. And with our running game and our offensive line, he can be a better option and make those plays that take us from 7-8 wins to 11 or 12. And if they do that, that's on them. Like I'm just sitting here, as an unbiased guy saying, I can see them. They've got the bird in the hand, as you say, with Jalen Hurts, but there may be that guy available in free agency or trade, or maybe there's a guy in a draft that when they look at him, they feel that guy has boundless potential. Now, you might think that that's more of a reach. They may disagree with you, and you're like saying, don't do it. They're going to do it if that's how they think. And that's just how it is.
I know. It's just frustrating to see the team winning with, quite frankly, not a lot of talent right now on the offensive side of the ball. They're really doing it with an offensive line, 1 receiver, and a tight end. I mean, this is a pretty basic offense that they're running, and you're showing that with a very basic offense. Now, you mentioned a good point. They really haven't beaten a team, but quite frankly, there's not many teams in this league to beat that are any good.
There really aren't. And they unfortunately had to play them all in the first 6 weeks of the year when they were kind of still finding themselves. So it's hard to say whether or not any of those games would have been different had they used this philosophy back then. I'm not sure that they would have, but who knows? I mean, I feel like and then listen, everybody's so week to week. It's great. It was a good win. Absolutely. This team was the same team that lost to the Giants a couple weeks ago, inexcusably. So to sit here after yesterday's win and talk about the future and what they should do because of what they have now, we might be having a conversation next week if they lose to the Giants again, or in 2 weeks if they lose to Washington, saying this team really needs upgrades in a lot of areas. Because that's what we were saying after the Giants game.
Jeff Mosher, we will be giving you the state of the Eagles on Friday. We'll go a little deeper into where they are. We'll talk a little bit about that Giant game and how important it is and all that stuff. That'll be on Friday at 4:00. The state of the Eagles with Jeff Mosher from InsideTheBirds.com. You guys will be back on Sunday with another Inside the Birds pregame show, a 5-day turnaround for your crew as well. That's on the YouTube channel and all the Inside the Birds social media platforms. All right. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. I'll talk to you in the new year. Friday, we will do the state of the Eagles. So we will talk then, Jeff Mosher.
All right. Look forward to it, Mike. Have a good one.
All right. That's Jeff Mosher from InsideTheBirds.com. We will do the State of the Eagles. That's on Friday at 4 o'clock right here on 97.3 ESPN. Got some text messages coming in, but when we come back, I've got who's in, who's out. We'll go over the 14 playoff teams. Who do I think will get in? Stick around and find out when we return on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. All right, 4:33 on a Wednesday. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Some text messages coming in I want to get to as well. 5 o'clock hour, wide open. No Joe this week. No Jeff tonight. Me and you, 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. We've got who's in and who's out to get to today, and who's in, who's out on the Sports Bash Live. It's brought to you by BMW of Atlantic City, closer than you think. Online, bmwatlanticcity.com. These are my 14 NFL playoff teams after 15 weeks of NFL games. These are the 14 teams I think will make the playoffs. Josh Henning is my producer, and I'm going to go down my list of teams. This ought to be interesting, right?
Listen, considering all the scenarios we went through for the last 5-6 days, I've been waiting for this day.
I've been waiting for this day. All right, here we go. Who's in, who's out? Let's find out who my 14 NFL playoff teams are going to be. In the AFC East, I'm going with the Patriots, 9-5. They're only a game up on Buffalo. They play this week.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, at this point, you could make an argument for either team to win that division. I mean, for me, I feel more comfortable going Patriots just because of how they've played. But the Colts win does put a little damper on that.
Buffalo's a plus 151. Patriots are plus 140. That might, just show you that Buffalo in the end might be the better team. We'll find out. They play this week. The game's in New England, though. So I like the Patriots in the AFC. AFC North. This one, all 4 teams are still in play. Cincinnati's 8-6. Baltimore's 8-6. Pittsburgh's 7-6-1. Cleveland is 7-7. I have had Cincinnati. I went Cleveland last week. I mean, I really haven't gone Pittsburgh at all. Will that tie be the difference?
It could be.
It really could be. And I feel like everyone's just not counting on Pittsburgh. They got Kansas City this week. That's a tough spot for them. So I'm going to go Cincinnati. I'm going to give Cincinnati. I feel like we're just counting Baltimore out all of a sudden. And Baltimore hung in there with the backup quarterback last week. Maybe Baltimore just is going through a little bit of a rough patch. 3 in a row they've lost. But I'm going to go Cincinnati. All right. They got a tough road win this past week. They went to Denver. It was ugly, but they got it done. They got a tough schedule, though. Ravens, Chiefs, Browns. They play the Ravens this week. It's at home. So the winner of that game is going to have a leg up in the North. Cincinnati's my pick. I think they'll go 2-1 down the stretch to finish 10-7 and knock off Baltimore.
If the Ravens would have won that game versus the Packers,
you
would have gone? Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Baltimore plays at Cincinnati, the Rams, and the Steelers. Right. A tough one. I think they go 2-1. I think Cincinnati goes 2-1. So who wins that tiebreaker? That I'd have to find out.
Well, you have to go by division and then conference.
Cincinnati beat the Ravens earlier. If they beat them here, they would sweep them.
Correct. So they would hold the tiebreaker.
So I'm going to go Cincinnati right now. I don't feel great about that one. In the South, I'm going Indianapolis. I like the Colts.
You're making the switch.
I went Indianapolis one week, and then I went back to Tennessee, and then I'm
kind of been going back and forth.
The Colts, I mean, they got a big win. They beat New England.
They didn't just beat New England. They did it in prime time and did it their way. They did it. They didn't have to go outside their element.
Reich said today if they win, that Wentz is going to have to help them win a game or two. I mean, he essentially did make that comment. They play at Arizona. A couple of weeks ago, you might have said, that's a tough spot. I think the Colts are better than Arizona is right now. And then they play the Raiders and the Jags. I could see the Colts winning out.
And they could. And then Tennessee will be struggling to keep up.
Tennessee is a game up. They beat the Colts twice, so they have that.
Correct.
They play San Francisco, Miami, and Houston. I could see them going 1-2.
I can see them going 2-1 in that scenario.
Okay. Even 2-1 might not be good enough.
It might not be. I just think that I still contend that Tennessee beats Miami. I know you've been on this idea that Miami's going to beat Tennessee. We're going to find out.
Yep. So I'm going to go Indy.
All right.
AFC West, Chiefs. They're 2 up, 3 to play. Feel pretty good there.
I think you should feel pretty good there.
Okay. This is a bleep show right here. The wild cards. Here we go.
Tell me how you really feel,
It's
Mike.
currently Indy, Chargers, Buffalo. Do the Titans go all the way out is the question. I think they get to one more win. That gets them to 10. So I got to go Tennessee as one of them. Tennessee will be in.
Okay.
Chargers at 8-6. Texans, that's a win. Broncos, Raiders. I think they win 2 at least. So the Chargers are in. That last spot now. Buffalo, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Raiders, Dolphins, Browns, Broncos. They're all within a game of each other.
Yep.
I think Buffalo loses to the Patriots, and then they win 2. That gets them to 10.
Okay.
So Buffalo at 10. Baltimore, I see loss, win. I think they're out. Pittsburgh. Loss, win. Ravens game's tough. I think they beat the Browns. I think they probably lose the Ravens. I think Pittsburgh's out. That tie may hurt them. The win might have got them a tiebreaker. The tie, I think you lose if you're 9-6-1 or whatever you would be, 9-7-1. No. Yeah, 9-7-1 you would be.
Right.
And someone else is 10-7, you'd be bumped.
Correct.
Raiders, I think they lose 2, so they're out.
Yep.
Dolphins. They play the Saints on Monday. That's a big one.
For both teams, yeah.
I think they beat the Titans, and they play the Patriots.
Question is, are the
just
Patriots?
I don't see Miami getting to 10. They'd have to win out.
They have
They've
to win
won
out.
7 in a row.
I don't see how they win out in that scenario.
Me neither. I think they fall just short. Cleveland, they ain't getting in. They play the Packers, Steelers, and the Bengals.
They may have one of the toughest schedules in all of football last 3 weeks.
Denver, nah. Buffalo's the one.
I mean,
Tennessee.
There's a scenario Buffalo plays New England in the first round then.
Yep. It would be 7-2. So I think Buffalo will be the 7. So I've got New England winning, Cincy winning, Colts winning, Chiefs winning, wild cards, Tennessee, Chargers, Buffalo.
You could also have a Chargers Colts first round as well.
So basically, all the teams in the playoffs now, I have them in.
Just in a different order.
Just in a different spots.
Right.
Yeah, currently, Kansas City's the one. Current playoff matchups would be Patriots, Buffalo, Tennessee, Chargers, Bengals, Colts. Out for me is Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Vegas, Miami, Cleveland, Denver. And then the other teams are eliminated.
A couple of those teams might be eliminated this weekend.
So that's in on the AFC. Who could be eliminated this weekend?
Well, remember the Broncos and the Raiders play each other. So the winner of that stays alive.
The winner of that game is going to be 8-7.
And alive.
Keeps
well, the
them,
other guy
in the mix.
You can basically tell the other team to go home at that point.
The loser of that game's done. They'll be 2 back with 2 to play.
Just too much. Not doable.
Miami, New Orleans is big, and it's cross conference.
Right. So it's not as much in conference as it is just both of them trying to.
They both need to win, though.
They need to win. So it's.
You don't see a game that's cross conference that has such an impact on the playoff race this late in the season, but they're both 7-7, and the win keeps the team in. The loss takes the other one out in their respective side. I mean, if the Saints lose, they fall to 7-8. They're pretty much done.
And we expect Sean Payton to be back. Remember, he missed last week with COVID.
All right, that's our AFC look at who's in. I'll do the NFC on the other side. Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. Stick around for that. All right, back to our who's in, who's out. This is the NFC side of things. These are the 7 playoff teams on the NFC. Now, on the AFC, I went Patriots, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Kansas City, division winners, Tennessee, Chargers, Buffalo as my wild card teams. All right, let's dial in on the NFC side of things, shall we? Josh Hennings, my producer. Josh, I'm going Dallas, obviously. Going to go Dallas in the East.
Right.
Green Bay in the North.
Makes sense. I mean, at this point, most of these divisions in the NFC are pretty much set.
Yeah, Tampa in the South. The other one is the Rams won last night. The Arizona has the tiebreaker over the Rams.
Correct.
Arizona plays the Colts, Cowboys, and Seahawks. Pretty difficult. Going 1-2.
Yeah.
I think so. Rams.
Not much easier.
Vikings, Ravens, Niners.
I mean, if Arizona goes 1-2, Rams have to go 2-1.
2-1 for the Rams, though. I'm going to go Rams in that West
division. Wow.
I had a conversation. I was texting back and forth with Todd Rank last night. We got into a little thing. I said Stafford. I said, Stafford stinks. He's like, oh, that's a terrible comment. I said, well, he's just
Well, stinks and are completely different galaxies. I mean, to say someone stinks, that means they shouldn't be starting. To say they're just means they're an average quarterback.
I think he's just, I rattled off 10 guys I take in front of Stafford. I'll have to read off the list to you, see if you agree.
So he's an average quarterback in your mind.
I think that team,
I don't think that's unfair.
That team with that talent shouldn't be where they are. They should be the team that's the favorite, not hanging on for life. But I'm going to give them the West.
You're going to give it to them.
Yeah.
For now.
For now. It's the first time I've gone Rams in a while.
Yes.
Arizona, wild card.
Naturally. I mean, basically, whoever doesn't win the West is going to be the wild card.
San Francisco will be the other one.
Right. Who
said last night? I'm going to make a bold prediction. I think it was on Monday night. 3 teams in the West are going to make the playoffs, he said. I said, well, how bold is that? You got 2 teams with 10-9 wins.
Yeah, it's not a bold prediction. That's more of like we all see that prediction.
San Francisco's the other wild card, and then there's the last one. You got Minnesota, 7-7, Rams, Packers, Bears. I got 1-2.
All right.
You all right with that?
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Saints, Dolphins, Panthers, Falcons. I got 2-1.
Yeah. I mean, I could even be 3-0, honestly. I mean, depending on how this weekend goes.
If it's 3-0, Eagles are in trouble.
Yeah, that's true.
But I got Eagles 2-1.
Who do you have them losing to?
Dallas.
Okay.
Dallas is going to need that game.
Gotcha.
Dallas is just better than Philly is right now.
Oh, for sure. Even with Dak and his whatever's going on with him.
I think Washington's cooked.
Yeah, I think Washington's cooked. I don't even know what the schedule is except for the Eagles game.
They play Dallas,
loss,
Philly,
loss,
Giants.
They might beat the Giants.
I got 1-2 for them.
1-2, yeah.
So that gets them to 7 wins. I think they're done. Atlanta, this contingent of teams, I think, is cooked. They'll beat the Lions, and I think they lose.
You sure they'll beat the Lions?
I'm not sure about that, but I'll give them the Lions. That's 7-9 for Atlanta.
That Lions team might be a little overconfident.
No, you're right. And Atlanta's not like, hey, we could beat you just by showing up. Atlanta's a 7-win team.
Dan Campbell's team will show up. I can promise you that.
Carolina's not winning another game. Not that matters. I think it goes down to Atlanta at 6-8. So it's either Philadelphia or New Orleans, I think. Philly beat New Orleans head-to-head, so I'll go Eagles for this one.
All right.
This week. How's that?
I mean, if I now, let me ask you this question. If you're the NFL, like if you're the league offices, which team would you rather have in?
Oh, Philly.
Because of the market?
Market, fans, TV ratings. Philadelphia is always a bigger story. I mean, Saints don't have any. What are you going to. I mean, the Eagles don't really have a star player either. But
you're going on, fan base interest.
Yeah, it's NFC East, East Coast, Northeast. I mean, that's just. And by the way, if Eagles get in, they would be 7 Dallas. You got Philly, Dallas in the first round, most likely. I mean, there's a great potential for that.
That'd be bonkers.
That would be huge for the TV networks to get a wild card game between Philly and Dallas in the first game. And even if Dallas doesn't get the 2 seed, again, you got Northeast, Philly, Tampa Bay, Brady trying to beat the Eagles after they beat him in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago.
Sure.
You got that. So New Orleans, I mean, although if you got New Orleans, Tampa, New Orleans beat Tampa twice this year. So you get that, but I think Philly's still the draw for the league.
The fact that New Orleans has the key to Tom Brady right now is the strangest thing to me.
So that's my who's in on the NFC side. I mean, the divisions are a lot more cut and dry over here.
Correct.
They're pretty much, the West is the only one, and I think the West will change hands. But the South, the North, and the East, they're all wrapped up. And then it's just that, really, it's that 7th wild card team. What's just to look at, San Francisco's got Atlanta, they'll beat. Titans, I think they'll beat. And the Rams, even if they lost, they're still at 2. That gets them to 10.
Yeah, that's
I said before, I think 9 wins is the team that's the 7 seed. I think 9 gets you in as the 7.
Yeah, I'm feeling more and more what you said. I think it was 2 weeks ago when you said that you had to have a minimum of 8 wins to make the playoffs no matter what. And it's really playing out like that.
I think it's going to be 9. 9 and 8, I think, is the number that gets you in as the 7 seed on the NFC side. Now, somebody texted in a while ago and said, Mike, the Eagles are still average playing in the worst division. Well, they're not in the worst division. That's number 1. Everybody's average.
The AFC South?
Right. Everybody's average. That's number 2. The worst division's the South. Tennessee leads that division. Dallas is better than Tennessee. Indy's next. Indy's probably better than Philly or Washington.
That depends
but
on
then
who you
Houston and Jacksonville are worse than the Giants and Washington.
Oh, way worse.
Yeah. So the South is the worst division. The East, the North is really bad. Green Bay is really good, but after Green Bay, Minnesota, and then Chicago and Detroit are worse than Washington and New York. So Dallas and Green Bay are comparable. Philly and Minnesota are comparable, but Washington is better than Chicago, and New York is better than Detroit, slightly. You can make an argument that the NFC South, too, with Tampa Bay and Dallas being similar, New Orleans and Philly. Philly beat New Orleans. Washington Giants about the same as Atlanta and Carolina. 5 o'clock hour coming up next. All right, final hour of the show. I got a lot I want to kind of jam into this hour. We'll do a bunch of stuff here. Text messages, 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. If you're listening on the radio, if you're listening on the free mobile app, you can hit me up through the app as well. If you're watching the show live video on the YouTube channel, you can hit me up over there on this Victory Wednesday. Eagles win. You know, there's so many things that we can kind of discuss and break down from that game last night, but you're already kind of looking ahead. They won the game. They did what they had to do last night. I'm impressed with Hurts. There is a lot to kind of unpack. I think the offensive line is something that has this team in, the offensive line as currently constructed. Now, the one caveat is Kelsey, how good he is. How much longer is he going to play? But as currently constructed, the Eagles' offensive line is why they're having success. Their offensive line is probably the best in football, if not one of the best in football, top 5 easily. The running game is the best in football right now. I thought Hurts played his best game last night. Breaking news, though, if you hadn't heard, Nick Sirianni tested positive for COVID. He is symptomatic, so he will not be around the team possibly all week long. They've got to get ready to play the Giants on Sunday. It looks like Sirianni won't be there. I think Sirianni's a big part of all this. I thought what he did last night was a big part of the game. Think about this. Can you imagine if Nick Sirianni is chewing Carson Wentz's ear out last night because he fumbled the ball and was careless with the football? How would Wentz handle that? And last night, Hurts handled it with, I got chewed out my whole life by my dad. He was my coach. My coach chewed me out my whole life. That was Jalen Hurts' reaction last night. And I thought it was really the turning point in that game is that Sirianni identified that the team was playing careless. The quarterback was part of the reason. He identified it. He let him know. The quarterback took it well, and the quarterback made the necessary adjustments, and the team from that point forward moved on to a victory. We could point out a lot of different observations in the game last night. One, the fact of the matter is this. The Eagles imposed their will on a Washington football team that was undermanned. You have to win those type of games. It's always, well, you only beat the Washington football team. But if you don't beat them, then it's you stink. You lost to the Washington football team. You win games you're supposed to win. That's what good teams do. You're not Arizona and stubbing your toe to the Detroit Lions at this stage of the year. This is why I can't take Arizona seriously. I'm not saying I'm taking Philadelphia as a Super Bowl contender, but on your way to the arrow pointing up is winning games against teams you're supposed to win at this stage of the season. The loss they had against the Giants, they weren't ready. We talked about it going into that game. If you remember, I do. I was over at 99 Bottles at Vagabond, and I asked the question, what are you going to do when you are expected to win a game now? And they lost that game to the Giants. Well, now they're expected to win this game against the Giants after they were expected to win a game against a shorthanded Washington football team last night. You have to be in a position to take stuff and grow from it. And I thought they grew from first quarter to second quarter last night. They're down 10-0. Second quarter, they win the quarter 10-0. They don't get complacent in the third. They absolutely take it to Washington and score 10 more. A lot of people question, why did they kick the field goal there? And I think it was a safe call by Sirianni. But you know what? The safe call was a smart call. Why? Because he had a team that he knew was just flat out better. Let's make it a 2-score game because I don't think they can score twice on us. You could say, well, they could have got the first down and really put them away. Well, if you don't, you're keeping Washington around. Make it a 2-score game. Make Washington have to have Garrett Gilbert lead them on 2 scoring drives instead of just 1. There are little tiny things that happen throughout the course of the game. But the big picture here, Jonathan Gannon, he really didn't send a lot of pressure after Garrett Gilbert last night. But I don't think that sending pressure at Gilbert in the situation that game was in needed to be done. And it sounds like, well, why not? Make Gilbert, the fact of the matter is this. They got enough pressure up the middle. They were getting internal pressure from the middle of the pocket. And I was comfortable enough with the amount of pressure they were getting that I don't really think they had to blitz a whole heck of a lot. I thought late in the game they sent a little extra pressure on like a third down. I think they got a little bit extra here. But Garrett Gilbert, when you have a guy like that and they are so desperate, what is something they have to do? They did it in the game. Gilbert, go back and just throw one up down the field. He had Slay twisting and turning. He ends up making that catch. The last thing you need is for Washington to say, hey, let's throw it down the field and see if we can get a couple pass interference calls. It's a Tuesday night. Your team is imposing their will. They're dominating the situation. Let's not have something wonky happen here. Let's just play the game safe. Let's just play the game safe because we're the better team. And I think that's what they did last night. Now, you can't play the game safe all the time. You have to understand there's times and places. So John Gannon can't keep playing safe all the time. This week, he's going to face either Jake from State Farm or what's the guy from Georgia? Jake Fromm. Yeah, Jake. What's it? Jake
Fromm.
Yeah, Jake Fromm from Georgia or Mike Glennon. Those guys are terrible.
The fact that you dropped the Jake from Straight Farm was a very good pull by you.
Thank you. I like what Sirianni has done in the last 2 weeks. I don't know if it's him. I don't know if it's the quarterback. But Dallas Goedert could have had maybe 200 yards last night if he doesn't have the two bad drops. But I thought getting him involved in the game is a difference maker for this offense. This offense, I've been saying it almost repetitively to the point of exhaustion. Every week, get Goedert involved. Look, I don't want to be hot takery off my rocker guy. I think Goddard's a better player than Ertz is. He's a more complete tight end. He blocks. Ertz didn't do that. He runs after the catch. Ertz wasn't great at that. What Ertz was really great at was he had great hands and he really found holes in the zone. He was a very good route runner. Goddard is just a more explosive piece in the pass game. It's really hard to sit here and say you have a better tight end than the best tight end in your team's history. But I think you do. I think you do have a better tight end than the best tight end in your team's history. The numbers suggest that he's better. He's more explosive. He's got to catch those two passes.
Well, that's the problem with Goddard. He needs to stay consistent. He's got to get rid of these lapses in judgment.
It's a huge advantage in this league now when you have that position. Kittle, Kelsey, Waller, those types of players. The Eagles have that guy. Oh, by the way, drafted by Howie Roseman in the second round. I know people don't want to admit it, but Roseman, smart pick, replacing Ertz, notifying that Ertz was going to be in a contractual situation. Let's get a young guy, have him learn from Ertz, then take the reins. I'm telling you, I hate to say it because I liked Ertz. I'm a big Ertz fan. I think Goddard's better than Ertz is. I really do. It's hard to say because Ertz has the greatest season in the history of tight ends in the league. I mean, he has more catches in one single season than any tight end ever had. But in reality, if we're being real here, if we're just taking the nostalgia of, hey, Zach Ertz was a popular player, he was really good. Dallas Goedert's averaging 15 yards a catch. 15. It's pretty darn good for a tight end. I mean, among tight ends, 15. I don't know where that ranks, but you go back to Zach Ertz's best season with the Philadelphia Eagles, which was obviously the year that he broke the record with 116 catches. He averaged 10 yards a catch that year. He had 116 receptions for 10 yards a catch. Goddard's getting 15 yards per catch. 15 as opposed to 10. And in Ertz's best season in yards per catch, he only averaged 12 yards a catch. His best season ever in the NFL, he averaged 12.1 yards a catch back in 2014, his second year in the league. That was a Chip Kelly offense. So even in Ertz's best couple of years in all of his statistical categories, yards per catch, he only averages in his career less than 11 yards per catch. Goddard's getting 15. So the makings are there of why did the Eagles win the Super Bowl in 2017? They had a really good offensive line. They had the best tight end in football for about a year or so there in 17 and 18, where really Ertz's two kind of bust out seasons. 19, he had 88 catches. But Goddard right now is better than Ertz is. So you have the building block, offensive line. You've now got your tight end. You got your one wide receiver in Smith. They've got a running game. Now, the interesting part with the running game is going to be, what are they going to do here? Sanders has one more year left on the deal. Howard, I think, is a free agent. Scott is a free agent. You do have Gainwell, who's a young guy. I don't think they'll tender. They've already identified the guys they want to bring back on contracts. Mailata, Edwards, who else got a contract? Josh Sweat, Dallas Goedert. So I don't think Miles Sanders is part of this team's future. I think he'll see him next year, and then that'll be it for him. But
or they trade him at some point.
They could possibly do that as well. But the makings of the offense with Goddard as the centerpiece, much like Ertz as the centerpiece, are there. Like, as much as we want to hate on Howie Roseman, he missed on this receiver. He missed on Justin Jefferson. He didn't take DK Metcalf. You are not going to hit on all your picks. Until people come to terms with that, you're going to stay pissed off at Howie Roseman, right? Until you come to terms with, you're not going to hit on every single guy. You know what's funny? I saw a tweet the other day, and I got to go back to the draft. What was it? 2020 NFL draft. I'm pretty sure it was Jacksonville. It had to have drafted like 20th. Jacksonville drafted 20th. And the Jacksonville beat guy wrote, hey, it sure would have been nice to have Justin Jefferson at number 20 instead of Kalavion Cassian is who they took at number 20. To which I tweeted, oh, so Howie Rosen wasn't the only guy who missed on Justin Jefferson? Of course he wasn't. People make mistakes. And until we understand that, you're going to keep getting pissed off for the wrong reasons. This team is stockpiling good talent. Jordan Mailata. Look at this offensive line last night. They lose Landon Dickerson. They pick up Suo Peta, who Andrew DeCecco told us yesterday, he was probably the most sought-after non-drafted rookie free agent. The Eagles identified him. They brought him in. They drafted Jason Kelsey in the 6th round, whatever year that was. At the right guard spot, they went out and got Brandon Brooks in a trade a couple of years ago. Great trade. The guy's been hurt. They identified Jack Driscoll in undrafted rookie free agent. They brought him in. Nate Herbig, undrafted rookie free agent. They identified him. They brought him in. And then, of course, Lane Johnson drafted by Howie Roseman, 2013 or 14 draft, one of those two.
At the end of the day, part of the problem with all these conversations we have is it's just there's lacking of context. You know, if you put context on things, there's a lot easier conversations to have. But the problem is that a lot of people, they either don't observe the rest of the league or they choose to ignore the evidence put in front of them, because if they consider that, then they have to throw out their bias, and that makes them question themselves.
Overreaction Wednesday, Mike. Ertz is a Wall of Famer. We'll see how Goddard's career goes. Yeah, Ertz is the best tight end in the history of the franchise. Goddard's numbers are already trending higher at this stage of his career. We'll see where Goddard goes. You asked, where was Goddard against the Giants? Zach Ertz didn't play 16 games that were Pro Bowl level games. Nobody does. So, yeah, Goddard wasn't a big factor against the Giants. You're not going to have 17 games where you are the man. But Goddard's numbers in his first, 4 years in the league right now are trending better than what Zach Ertz was. And keep in mind, this has to be part of the equation as well. Zach Ertz didn't have anybody to contend with when he first got to Philadelphia. He was the guy.
Pretty much immediately.
Immediately, he got into the offense, right? Zach Ertz, his rookie year, had 56 targets his rookie year. Dallas Goedert had a split time as a rookie with Zach Ertz. So Goddard had 33 catches his first year. Zach Ertz had 36 catches his first year. The second year, Goddard had 58 catches, which is exactly the same amount of catches that Zach Ertz had. In his third season, last year, Goddard had 46 catches, and that's where Ertz really took off. He went to 75 in his third year. Well, keep in mind, Goddard had Ertz to deal with. Now you look at where they are in 2021. Right now, keep in mind, Ertz was here for the first X amount of games this year. But I'm going to tell you, at the end of this year, there's 3 games left. I'm going to make a prediction for you there, Josh. Dallas Goedert is going to go over 1,000 yards receiving. Zach Ertz did that one time in his career, and it took 116 catches to get him there. He averaged 10 yards a catch. Right now, Goddard is averaging 15 yards per catch. It's pretty amazing. And when you think about it, he has 48 catches for 731 yards.
And obviously, don't forget his quarterback can't throw either. Remember that?
Well, I'll say this. He has right now 48 catches for 731. Zach Ertz, in his entire career, has gone over 731 times, just 5 times in his career. So in this one season, half a year without Ertz, his numbers are better right now than every single Ertz year, except for those middle seasons when Ertz was really, really, really good. 75 catches, 853, 78 catches, 816, 74 catches, 824, 116 catches, and 1,163 yards, 88 catches for 916. Those are the years right there that Goddard this year is going to pass all but one of those seasons. That's my prediction. Okay? You going to write that down so we remember that?
Which part?
Goddard will go over 1,000 yards.
All right.
And that means that he will have a better year this year than every year Ertz has ever had except for Ertz's record-breaking season. Ertz had 116 catches for 1,163 yards and 8 touchdowns. That year is going to be tough to duplicate, although I wouldn't be shocked if Goddard went over 1,163. That's going to be a little tough. Not really. Where's he at right now? What did I say? He's at 731. So to get to 1,000, he's got to get over, what's he need, like 260 yards to get there?
Yes.
Right? He's at 731. So yeah, he needs about 260 yards to get there.
He does have 2 games over 100 yards this year receiving. So it's not like it's out of reach.
Yeah. So he needs to average 89 yards a game. That's a lot, but I think if he can get over the 100-yard mark in a couple of those games.
Well, Mike, he's already averaging 56 yards per game. So
yeah, but he's averaging 56 yards.
Half
that's
those games
low.
were early in the year when Ertz was on the team.
I was going to say that's low because of the fact that he was sharing time for most of the year. Since Ertz has been traded, what week did Ertz get traded?
Let me double check. I believe it was early November.
you could see the targets have gone early in the year. He had 5, 2, 4, 5, 3, 5. Now he's got 7, 6, 8, 6, 9 last night. The targets are going up with Ertz not here. And the big thing with this is, I asked earlier, what does Jeff Lurie think about this team right now? Where his organization is? I think he has to reevaluate what he thinks about where this team is.
By the way, Ertz was traded October 15th.
October 15th.
So give me a minute. I'll pull up Goddard.
I got Goddard right here.
October
15th.
October 15th.
So he played the Vegas game without him. His first game without Ertz, he had 70 yards, which was his high for the season, until the next game when he had 72 yards, which is the high for the season. And then he had 105 yards against the Jets and 135 against Washington. So without sharing the targets with Ertz, Goddard has really turned into a big player. Dave Weinberg texted me and said Brett Selleck was with the Eagles when Ertz got there. Yeah, but Selleck really turned into a blocking tight end at that point, right? He was essentially, a blocking only guy towards the end of his career. So you're right. Selleck was there, but he was really minimally a part of the passing game. Selleck was, and by the way, Selleck was a pretty good tight end when he was the lone guy in Philadelphia. But I would imagine when did Ertz get drafted? Zach Ertz was drafted in 13.
Same draft as Lane Johnson.
Right. So Selleck in 13, like you see his targets went way down. Selleck targets were 24, 19, 35, 51. When Ertz got there, they were his targets before Ertz got there, 88, 97, 112, 80. They kind of phased him out as a receiver and really made him nothing more than a blocking tight end because Ertz, they wanted him to be I would too. I got Zach Ertz. I want him to be my guy. I want him to be the receiving tight end.
By the way, in the 8 games since Zach Ertz was traded, Goddard is averaging over those games 64 yards per game. So
64 yards a game, which is now where does that rank with the other, the Wallers, the Kittles? Where are those guys at in terms of yards per game? I think the yards per catch is a big one too. It shows you that he is a big play threat in the offense, right? When you give him the ball, Ertz, big thing.
Yeah, his yards per reception since Ertz has been gone is 15.6.
15.6. Now, where is that average with the other tight ends? Like, what does Waller catch? What does Kittle get? What does Kelsey get? Mark Andrews. Because what was Zach Ertz? No yak Zach. He would catch the ball. He made great catches, but he got tackled. He went right down. Goddard catches the ball and then gets yards after the catch. He makes more things happen. This isn't, I don't like Zach Ertz. He's one of my favorite Eagles of all time. But it's also acknowledging, hey, the guy that I really like, there might be a guy who's even better than him, which is awesome. It is awesome to say they found a guy who might be better than the best you ever had.
By the way, Dallas Goedert has more yards per reception this season than all the guys you mentioned.
So of all the tight ends, Goddard is basically the biggest play guy.
Here's the order of the top. I'm only including the top tight ends. I'm not including randos in here. George Kittle, 13.5. Rob Gronkowski, 13.2. Travis Kelce, 12.8. Mark Andrews, 12.5. Darren Waller, 12.1.
Hawkinson in there?
Not that high.
Okay, well, those are the guys
I'm
that
still
come to my
scrolling
head.
to find his name.
Right, those are the guys that come to mind for me when we're talking about the best tight ends in this league.
Mike Gesicki, 10.7. I mean, I'm still scrolling here looking for Hawkinson's darn name.
Or maybe he's just not.
Maybe he's new. No, yeah, exactly.
Well, he's the only guy on Detroit.
There he is, 9.6.
So that he's just a possession guy.
Whoa, he's way down the list here.
So I think that is a very good indication of what this team has with Goddard. So when we talk about this team isn't explosive, they don't have that big play guy, you're absolutely right. But keep in mind, their tight end averages almost 16 yards per catch. No team has that. No team has that. I got you right here. Kyle Pitts, by the way, averages 17.3.
He's not on that list of names that you were mentioning earlier.
No,
that's
but
all.
he's a big play guy. He's averaging 17.3.
Right, David Njoku, he's got 14.5.
By the way, where is the guy who texted me earlier in the year talking about Pitts, tight ends as rookies don't do anything? He's averaging 76 yards a game. Now, he's on a bad team. He hasn't helped that offense out, but it's not because he's been a bust. He's been the best tight end. In fact, he broke basically all the tight end rookie records. George Kittle's averaging 13.6. Travis Kelce, 13.5. Goddard on the season is averaging 13.4. But as you said, without Ertz, it's 15.7.
Right.
That number is that's a big play tight end right there. The Eagles have a big play guy because you go to wide receiver, Josh. The wide receiver yards per catch. You take a look at some of the guys who are the best yards per catch guys in the league. Deebo Samuel, 17.4. That's 2 yards better than your tight end. Mike Williams, 17. Jamar Chase, 17. There's not too many guys in this league that are big-time wide receivers that are getting 15 yards per catch like he is. Think about that. All right, Sports Bash Live, 527. 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. I got text messages. I'm going to read them off on the other side. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Your text messages on the other side. Now, earlier I was asking, I said, hey, May, June, July, August, September. I said, I think the Eagles could be a playoff team. Many people in the listening audience told me I was crazy, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, way off base, homer. I'm going to give you the opportunity to say, hey, I was one of those people, and I'm on board now. 609-403-0973. Back with more Sports Bash next. 534 Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. I'm Mike Gill. Read a couple text messages. Pete Thompson is going to be checking in as well. We're off on Happy Hour Friday, so we'll do a couple hits with the PT here. I think he is with me. I'm not sure that he is ready to go, but let's see. PT, you there? Which one? This one? This one?
You're going to
PT,
see
you there?
me any second now. I can hear you. I'm getting there to where you can see me.
I got you there, Peter.
Getting there. How about now?
I hear you.
Perfect. How's it? Right, and you hear me now, right?
I do hear you, Pete Thompson. You are loud and clear. You are live on the radio. Pete Thompson live. Where are you, Peter?
And now I should be in your picture.
I see
Sir.
you. I see you.
Yes. Do you see the lovely accoutrements behind me?
I do. It looks like you're in a place that I would have some fun in.
That would be Joe Canals in Millville. There's Josh. Hi, Josh. Right here we are, the discount liquor store here, in right in front of Delsey Drive, right in front of Walmart. Come out and see us. We're out here with Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey. We're having a great time.
Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey, all the rave, man.
I just heard somebody, they were kind of over here strategizing. They're like, "Oh yeah, we'll pair that with the Godiva chocolate liqueur," and I'm thinking, like, "Yes, you will."
Chocolate liqueur, the peanut butter, and I keep telling you, you got to get the banana liqueur.
Yeah, that's not bad either. I mean, listen, bring them all on, you know.
Now, did you have any of that? You have any of that at the Eagles tailgate last night?
Last night they did do no, we did not have Screwball. We had it's funny. The guy that I sit next to, you remember how, like, I've been saying for like a year that I can't have beer, right? The guy that I sit next to brings me back one of the tall cans of Miller Lite. I was like, and what are you going to do? Say no, right? Tell him, like, no, you can't have it. You know, I mean, so I managed vibe. But hey, you want to see the coolest thing right here? Look at this. That's Frankie, and look what he's got in his hands.
I see a bundle.
1, 2, 3. Gill, does that work for you?
Yeah, I see a bunch of them.
Bottles of Screwball.
4. Yeah. So you were at the stadium.
So how you doing, pal? Happy.
You were at the stadium last night. Give me the energy in the place was when it's 10-0 Washington.
Oh, people were pissed, including me. I mean, listen, that's a must-win game, and you get out there, and you all of a sudden. I mean, the biggest thing was, to the naked eye, where my seats were, you couldn't see that ball bounce off of Dallas Goedert's foot the way that it did. You just thought it was dropped. So for him to have the ball kick off his foot, what bad luck, I mean, and everybody was kind of groaning and, dare I say, complaining and moaning when that play happened. And then they showed it on the big board, and you're like, oh yeah, that's obviously an interception. Okay, Washington football.
Yeah.
And then you thought maybe they'd hold him to 3. That didn't happen either, right? So they score. Fine.
They deserve to score, though, because that guy intercepted that pass, and he would have ran for the touchdown, but they blew it dead.
Right. They sort of the officials. Well, Tony Correnti's crew is terrible. I mean, that's another thing. There was an obvious face mask that the whole stadium was like, face mask, and nobody saw it in zebra stripes. Not
what's
a single
funny
person
about
there saw
Tony
it.
Correnti's crew, though? I read that the Eagles are, whatever their record is with Tony Corrente, is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Washington's record with him is dreadful. Somebody in the Washington media had said Corrente and put the records there. Yeah. Oh, look, being there, you get that different energy in the field. When Hurts fumbles that ball, now you didn't see on TV because obviously you're at the game, but I don't know if you noticed, Sirianni chewed him out on the sideline, and everybody's kind of talking about that as like
I like that. Yeah.
As like the turning point
right.
of the
I like
game.
that. I didn't see the chew out, but it's funny because there's certain things you catch and things you don't. One, that fumble happened pretty much right in front of us, because the Eagles were driving at that point down 7-0, and then that fumble takes away momentum. Two turnovers, and you're not even out of the first quarter yet. That was a problem. And no, I didn't see him get chewed out, but later in the game, I do remember like Jordan Mailata either getting a penalty or I think he got called for a holding penalty. And I watched him come to the sidelines, and I watched Jeff Stoutland basically have a one-on-one interaction with him. And I thought that's cool. Those are the kind of things that you might not see on TV, but you'll actually see there. Or like another time, remember there was a chance for Devontae Smith. It was second half, chance in the end zone, and he basically like fell backwards and didn't catch the football for a touchdown, right? Well, then but he was grabbing his knee a little bit, and he went into the blue tent. Now, I'm sure they probably addressed that he went into the blue tent, but what you couldn't see then was him sort of doing the laps up and down the white sideline there to make sure that he had enough, gumption to return to the game and stuff. But that was concerning to me because when I saw him come off and then go into the blue tent, I'm like, oh my gosh, they can't lose Devontae Smith. Him and Goddard, that's the offense.
Well, the difference in the game,
Receiving offense.
They really imposed their will running the ball last night. Their offensive line, I mean, you're there, you probably get a chance to see it. They were mentioned on the broadcast. Washington just looked gassed, and you're just pounding on them all night long till late in that third quarter. They just couldn't stop them.
At one point, I took a picture in the third quarter of the stats. There was 3:34 left in the third quarter. I don't know if you could still see that on the StreamYard or not, but I'm holding my phone up with the stadium scoreboard, right? You can kind of, at that point, it was 17-10, 3:34 left, and the Eagles had 207 rushing yards, 193 pass yards for 400 yards of total offense or total yards of offense at that point, and they were dominating time of possession. But like that said, I can remember later on in the fourth quarter turning to my dad when it got to be like 20-17 and going, dude, we have a ball game here. Like, this is a problem. And that was, I think, with like 11 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. And you're just sitting there thinking, like, come on, Eagles, don't let this this injured, wounded, who's playing quarterback, who's actually on the field team come in and actually get back in the football game. So yeah, they ran the football at will. They looked really, really good doing it. Jordan Howard looked good. Miles Sanders looked good. You know, everybody looked good running the football. Jalen Hurts, that's the best game. Now, I think that's the best game that Jalen Hurts has played because we've seen his worst. So now you have to say that's a new benchmark for him.
Well, I thought, this was a big game for Hurts for a couple of reasons. One, he hadn't played in 3 weeks. I mean, you go back to the Giant game, and then he misses the Jet game. Then there's the bye week, and then there's the extra days. So, you're pushing 3 weeks since the last time he played. Then he has the 2 weeks of the Minshew stuff hanging over his head, where a lot of people would prefer to have seen Minshew play. And then he struggles. He has the interception that's not his fault. Then he fumbles the ball as you're going in the red zone. He could have really folded the tent and had the booze and whatever, and he answered the call and really was a big reason why they won that game last night.
Yeah, and I think that's part of his makeup. And you talked about too him getting chewed out and him responding to that, like as he's had that kind of tough coaching all his life. And I mean, you could take away, there was a couple drops, balls that should have been caught. Obviously, we talked about the Goddard ball, but 20 for 26, you put a couple more of those back in, then he's like 23 for 26 for 296. That's a pretty good, even the interception you can't put on Hurts. I mean, God, the interception went off of Dallas Goedert's ankle. So to me, I think that Jalen Hurts played extremely, extremely well. I think there's a great potential for what this football team can be moving forward. And I got about 4 hours of sleep, got up and taught school today, and then find out that the head coach has COVID. I mean, come on. This is the craziest NFL season I can ever remember.
Well, if the head coach has COVID, you got to imagine there's going to be more names on that list. I mean, he's in close contact with everybody. I mean, he's chewing his quarterback out. He's in his ear the whole night long. The coach is in the room. You got to imagine there's going to be more names on that list, and I wouldn't be surprised if this week the Eagles are the team that becomes shorthanded.
Yeah, and that's the thing is close contact and proximity. Yes, they've taken a lot of care and precaution, and obviously it was Washington that was affected more than the Eagles going into this game. But you're right. I mean, it's that domino effect, and if Sirianni has it, and Landon Dickerson can get it, who's the next person that was in close contact? And that's the thing with this Omicron variant. It doesn't seem to matter how many shots you've had or how many boosters you've had or anything that you've done. It just keeps permeating its way through. I mean, look, that's why the NHL isn't playing tonight. That's why, basketball is being I don't want to use the word invaded, but just overrun, it seems like right now. And here we are going to the holidays where we're going to have holiday gatherings and all that. By the way, while you were talking there, I thought of a couple more things about Jalen Hurts and his play last night. One, on the bad side, there was a play left to right going away from us where he threw a ball that Dallas Goedert did come down with, but it was an underthrown ball and it was into double coverage. So to me, that wasn't the greatest ball, but Dallas Goedert made it work. And that's where, a lesser receiver, a lesser player would not have come down with that ball.
Well,
but
I don't know.
Secondly, I'll say,
I was
go
talking
ahead.
about Goddard in the first segment of this hour before you came on, is that it's weird to say this because I'm a big Ertz fan. I think Goddard might be better than Ertz is.
Oh, yeah, I heard you saying a little, no yak Zach. I heard that phrase and was laughing out here at Joe Canals in Millville because I thought that very much summed up. Look at me. I'm going to do a little public service. Line 2 is open. Line 2. Anybody who wants to check out in lane 2. Gill. This is PT at its finest. All right, so no yak Zach.
You're just sitting in the middle of a liquor aisle just talking.
Yeah, I'm basically right in 4. I'm blocking the cordials, the brandies, and tequilas.
Now, what I need you to do is, now what I need you to do is, okay. Now I'm a big, a big Screwball peanut butter whiskey fan. In fact, somebody just texted me about a banana liqueur to pair with it for New Year's. So people are listening.
Okay.
The Screwball people should know.
Good.
We have a lot of people who are excited about Screwball. I love the Screwball. We will have Screwball at New Year's. But I want to see what kind of selection they have in the craft beer aisle there at that particular store.
Oh, all right. Well, when I am done this part, I will go do a little research for you and get some of the craft beer for you. I'll take some pictures for them and text them to you.
Good.
Check out our craft beer selections. It's a whole big thing here.
I would like to see what they have because I can't have Screwball peanut butter whiskey the entire night. That would be a bad decision. That would probably put me.
Well, Frankie from Screwball is nodding his head. Yes, you actually could. Here's something funny. So we're promoting Screwball peanut butter whiskey. There you go right there. Can you see what's in the barrel? Manager special, 2 pounds of salted nuts. Salted peanuts. Right, just in case the Screwball's not enough for you.
Well, the Screwball, as I've said, now somebody just texted me, all right? A listener texts in, a mutual friend of ours who texted in.
All right.
He said to pair the Screwball peanut butter whiskey with Howler Head. It's a banana infused.
Oh, okay. Howler Head. All right. That's a new one for me.
So
Fine. That sounds good.
Screwball peanut butter whiskey, which is like the top accoutrement here. This is the number 1 seed for your New Year's parties. And I keep saying, like, I could drink that plain. I don't need anything with it because it's that good. But
it really is.
I like a little banana in mine. And now there's another, because it's hard to find the banana liqueur. That's all.
Right. But there's got to be. Oh, and look, one of the cashiers here is nodding her head like that's the greatest idea I've ever heard.
Chocolate peanut butter banana.
Sorry, Janice. I downgraded your status. Janice is all about
my mother?
She's actually a manager here. Yeah, you didn't know that your mother's working at the Joe Canals out here in Millville, right off of Delsey Drive, right in front of the Walmart.
Well,
that would be funny.
That's
now,
my
that
mother's name.
Funny.
That's my mother's name.
Yes, Janice Jones Gill. Yes. Wonderful lady.
All right, Peter. Well, it's good to see you. It's we're looking.
Was this it?
Well, I got to go. I have a break coming up.
Oh, that's true. Well, let me at least thank Marvin, who's the big boss out here, and Josh, the manager, Janice, you heard, and all the girls that are on the front lines. You know, you got Janie is in lane 2, Malaysia's in lane 3, and Lizzie in lane 4, and they are working their butts off up front, making sure everybody gets processed through. Plus, all the guys are back stocking. Daniel, Kevin, Kelly, Joe. I mean, this is a big operation out here, Gil.
Hey, I appreciate them as much as any service out there because that's a place that never got to shut down. They had to keep coming to work through everything. No, seriously.
You're
threw
absolutely
everything.
right.
Everything was shut down, but the liquor stores, and they were on the front line of working and trying to stay safe while people were going in because guess what? That was about the only thing people could do in 2020 and early 2021. So those people deserve a huge gratitude. So thanks to them and the people with Screwball. Pete Thompson is going to be hanging out with Josh a little bit next hour as well. Josh has what? Dave Weinberg's coming up tonight at
that'll be fun. Me and Weinberg.
Yeah, especially when I
show.
say something and Weinberg texts me, trying to tell me I'm wrong. And then I said, hey, I got to do a little research on this. And no, you're wrong.
Oh, I love it. Oh, I'll be tuned in.
The Weinberg Wednesdays are always good on my drive home. So
yeah, definitely.
All right, Pete.
All right, buddy. Good
Screwball
to catch up with you.
peanut butter whiskey. That's where Pete is. He'll give you more details coming up in just a little bit with Josh on game night. All right, Sports Bash is live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. We love having that be a part of the show. Of course, you can get your peanut butter whiskey for your holiday party. Hopefully everybody's safe for the holiday party. My gosh, it seems like, as Pete said, Nick Sirianni, he tested positive for COVID today. May not be a part of the game on Sunday. I'll close out the show. Final thoughts. A lot of your text messages throughout the day. I'll see how many I can read off and react to coming up next. That'll about do it for me tonight here on the Sports Bash on a Victory Wednesday. Eagles win. They move into the 8th spot in the NFC playoff race. Josh will have more reaction tonight on game night. There is no game tonight. Open slate. Tomorrow night, Sixers, Hawks, San Francisco, Tennessee kicks off Week 16 in the NFL. Friday night, the Hawaii Bowl here on 97.3 ESPN. We'll be off on Friday. We'll have a special State of the Teams that will air from 2 to 6 on Friday's show. Coming up, Dave Weinberg at 6:15 from 97.3 ESPN.com. Check out his 2-minute drill over at 97.3 ESPN.com with thoughts on the Eagles' win over the Washington football team. I'll be back tomorrow live at Chickies and Pete's. Have a great night, everyone.